Sound art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it sound art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
Sebring International Raceway, the birthplace of American endurance racing.
Sebring is a lot of fun, a huge amount of history. Sebring, 12 hours, one of the hardest, most physical tracks on driver.
That is awesome racing.
Sebring is bumpy.
Hashtag respect the bumps.
Sebring is intense.
12-hour racing is demanding on the cars and the drivers as well.
Sebring has got to be the most challenging racetrack on planet Earth.
There's really nothing else quite like Sebring.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
So I fueled the number 19 car for DXDT Racing. CrowdStrike AWS, our sponsors, this weekend. It's kind of awesome. You know, fueling a car during a race requires, you know, full race suit or full fire suit, full Nomex, underwear, long johns. It's pretty hot in there. It's not too dissimilar than things that you do in the Army, especially. There is a ton of safety with it. You know, race fuel is somewhere between 100 and 110 octane. And if it hits the side exhaust on one of these Mercedes GT3s, it's an instant fire. So it's kind of a big deal. You going over the wall is also a big deal. I mean, that's a kind of rite of passage working a crew. And when you get a chance to go over the wall and you do it right, you nail it the first time, it's always a big deal. I guess as coming to a new team, you know, DXDT's been a partner with Operation Motorsport now for 2 seasons, but stepping up to their GT3 program is a big deal, and they've taken care of me. Getting into a team that is like, hey, don't care where you came from, don't care how you got here, you're here, you're going to work, and you're going to work hard. That's really that's what this whole program is about. So this has been a great weekend here at Sonoma, California. Weather's bore with us mostly, and we're going to enjoy the decently warm weather for early March, and have another great race too today.
When their Operation eMotorsport iRacing League, presented by RECARO, took off from the backstretch of Daytona International Speedway, we opened a Pandora's box of unknowns. The one thing we did know, however, is that we'd be right back in virtual Florida at the Sebring International Raceway to cap the season off. Welcome, race fans, to Pit Stop TV. Eric Brennan and JP Costa join me this evening. Trey Shuttlesworth is on our social media accounts. My name is Andrew Cardinale IV, and this is Pit Stop TV's live coverage of the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League presented by RECARO. As we know, you have many options to watch sim racing action. We thank you for joining us here at Pit Stop TV and tuning in on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. As we look around the Sebring International Raceway, we get a nice look at things. We started out at the start-finish line on that home straight off into turn 1 through 2, 3, 4, and on as you go. Now we're in that turn 6, the big bend here at Sebring. We're headed quickly down to that hairpin, Eric, and I think that's going to be the first big trouble spot for a lot of these drivers as they embark on a 2-hour journey here in Sebring, Florida.
Absolutely, Andrew. And hello, everybody watching. I am so excited that we're going to round down the season here at Sebring. I mean, first off, who doesn't love this venue with the historical context behind it? It's going to serve as the perfect platform for this season of Operation eMotorsport to draw to a close. But you're right, this hairpin here with the beautiful 7 at 7 hotel on the left-hand side on the exit of the corner is probably going to be one of the most chaotic portions of the racetrack. But JP Costa, Sebring offers up a lot of different variables. Some corners may seem a little bit inviting as far as trying to, make a pass if there's not enough room. I think we're going to be in for quite the 2-hour affair here tonight.
Yeah, exactly. This track offers a lot of overtaking opportunities, a lot of follow-up and no comeback moves. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be an exciting 2 hours for every single driver. Obviously, there's a lot of variables that are coming on tonight's race, and I'm pretty sure we're just going to see 2 hours of flat-out racing throughout, because strategy can be thrown out the window in endurance racing sometimes. And I'm pretty sure every single driver is coming up with something different and probably something hiding under their sleeves.
So as we continue to take a look around Sebring, it's just good to be here. Sebring really is, I feel like, the place you go for any kind of endurance racing. I mean, Daytona and Le Mans, they have their allure, and they are the crown jewel events, I'd say, recognized across the world. But I think if you're not going to Daytona, if you're not going to Le Mans, personally, I feel like it's Sebring. It's where you have to go. And to cap this season off with what is going to be a bit of an endurance event, 2 hours as opposed to their usual 1 hour, it just feels right to be here under the sun and amongst the palm trees here in Sebring. And we get a nice look here at that section actually named after Le Mans before you head down the Ullman Straight, and it gets so fast off into Sunset. It's, well, this is an old airfield. What do you say we go ahead, we come right down here, right on the racetrack, then take off here in a second, and just look at how long the Ullman Straight is. It's incredible, Eric.
Yeah, and it leads right into Sunset Bend, which, you know, it looks wide. It looks like you have forever to try to turn into this right-hander and get prepared for it. And as we lift the elevation on our view here, you're going to see just how wide that final right-handed corner is. And it is so sweeping, and it looks like you have a ton of room to be aggressive with getting back into the throttle and just letting the car naturally slide out left to corner exit. But the truth is, it is so flat that if you miss your mark here, it's going to kill your momentum back to the start-finish line and down the front straightaway. All that available runoff room is great if you have some trouble, but if you get this corner wrong, not only could you be paying the price on the straightaway, but you could also become really good acquaintances with that outside retaining wall and driver's left. It is definitely one of the most difficult corners to master on this racetrack, even though it looks as though it's wide enough to fit about 10 cars deep.
And let's not forget the distinguishing factor of this racetrack, the bumps. The bumps on the final corner are so deep, and they can really throw your car off the corner, and not only that, but can throw your rear end so you can overcorrect. So there's a lot of variables, as Eric said. If you just go a bit offline, you're going to be suffering throughout the start-finish straight, but also if you hit a bump on the wrong way, you can throw your car completely on the sideways direction and onto the wall. As now, Andrew, we're going to start a side-by-side comparison between the Porsche and the BMW.
Yeah, so this weekend I asked Chris Walsh to go ahead and give us a couple of laps around the Sebring International Raceway, and this is what he gave us. He took a lap in both the Porsche, which is on the left side of your screen, and the BMW, which is on the right side of your screen, and just wanted to give us a comparison as to how this racetrack is going to be for these drivers between each car. And you can see the Porsche, it's very oddly settled in the corners. I feel like over the last 6 months, even a year, we've been talking about the exact opposite with the Porsche versus the BMW. The BMW has kind of just hunkered down in the corners, been a nice little tank, and then rocketed down the straightaways, whereas you can attack a bit more with the Porsche. Now it's kind of flipped around where the Porsche is just so much better throughout the corners. It's got much better mid-corner speed at this point, and even the BMW straightaway speed just can't quite match what the Porsche Cayman 718 can put down right now in this GT4 category. So you'll see over the course of the rest of this lap, the Porsche just seems to have that edge. They're still relatively close, and you'll see they'll come down the start-finish straight at the same time, but the Porsche just has that edge, and especially for somebody, I think, Chris Walsh, of course, where he's been driving the Porsche all season long, it might be lending him to go slightly faster in the Porsche, but I think the difference is still pretty visible, pretty clear to everybody watching that the Porsche right now is just a bit better than the BMW. The BMW simply, at a place like Sebring, isn't necessarily going to put lap times on the Porsche simply by stretching its legs. You go to Daytona, might be talking about a different conversation, but at least here at Sebring, it's going to be very, very close. But I think that Porsche's got the edge, even with the BMW doing all the heavy work right here down the Ullman Straight and just rocketing off into Sunset. You can see the difference when they go by the cones for brake markers and pass the wall on the inside of Sunset here onto the bridge. You can see all those reference points, and the Porsche is just slightly ahead. But nonetheless, a great way to look at the differences between cars and compare these two cars as we get ready for 2 hours of competition with them. With that said, with that out of the way, we want to welcome in a couple of guests, and I want to hand things over to Eric Brennan for a special guest interview.
Thanks a lot, Andrew. And we're going to take this opportunity here to talk to a couple of names which we mentioned on the broadcast on a weekly basis. Both are from Resilience Racing. We're going to welcome to the broadcast booth John Winker and Callum Belden. And I'll tell you, we'll start with you, John, who's actually the team manager and one of the co-founders at Resilience Racing. This Operation eMotorsport season, in its second installment here to kick off this 2021 winter campaign, it's done a lot for its beneficiaries, drivers, competitors. I want to say, though, on behalf of Resilience Racing, this relationship between Resilience and Operation eMotorsport, what has it been able to do for you guys, especially as we start to transition into, I would say, the high gear portion of motorsport seasons?
Yeah, I mean, the relationship has actually been perfect for us. When season 1 came out, it came out at just the right time for us to get our drivers involved, and with the focus of real racing being put to the wayside. Like I said, it came out at just the right time. The relationship has been great. The iRacing platform allows us to get our drivers out and practice, with hand controls and things like that, and do it in a safe environment. So
Yeah, it certainly serves as a good proving ground for the technology in which you guys are building and working upon. And one of the beneficiaries of that is Callum Belden. And Callum, we've highlighted your story a couple times throughout the year. I know that you joined us for season 1 a year back. And you actually say that, this eMotorsports League is a way for which you could share your immense passion for motorsport as a former Marine captain. And you also share this passion with your fellow veterans and those who support them. So I'll pose a similar question to you, except maybe on a little bit more of a personal note. Your involvement with this series and Resilience Racing, and seeing the success that it's having for so many who have gone through similar steps of life after serving our country or their respective country. What does this organization and event mean for you, and what has it done for you in preparation for what's upcoming later this season?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. And I do want to point out that you always seem to highlight my story right as I'm off track or running into somebody else, which I promise is not how I spend the majority of my time in iRacing, although I do feel more comfortable on a real track. But all kidding aside, I think this has been a great opportunity for me in particular, and really, I know I share this with with everybody else in the series, an opportunity for everybody to just come together once a week and just have fun, with veterans who are like-minded and enjoy the same thing in terms of auto racing. And while nothing's as good as the real thing, I think this has been a great series that Jason and the Operation Motorsports team has put on. Especially during this pandemic, this trying year for everybody, when really, we look at what we do at Resilience Racing as a form of kind of throttle therapy, and this is almost the next best thing if we can't actually get out to the track.
Yeah, that's an incredible point, and I'll do my best to shine a spotlight on you on a more positive circumstance tonight. Now, before we let you guys go, I want to just touch on one more thing with you, for both of you. You guys are truly the star of the series. It's what it's all about. The stories are incredibly inspirational. I want to invite everybody watching or listening, visit the website at resilienceracingfoundation.org to learn a little bit more, not only about the series, but those who make up that organization. I should say the team and those who make up that organization. And John, for you, obviously the last year literally has been crazy for everyone, but this really has served as a true outlet and an area in which you can kind of fill not only that competitive drive that each of you have, but that need for an adrenaline rush that's hard to relinquish after spending your time in the service. For you, no matter whether you're battling up at the front of the pack, middle of the pack, maybe having a not so good day, is this really check those boxes as far as once you're done and you climb out of the virtual cockpit, you go to bed tonight feeling a little bit fulfilled and satisfied because you got that little bit of an adrenaline boost again after being able to compete in an event like this?
Absolutely, it fills that void for sure. It doesn't compare to the real thing, but it's definitely the second, next best thing for sure. Being able to get out on track and also, talk with other vets, at least this once a week, it's definitely an outlet that's been fantastic.
All right, and real quick, Helen, before we let you go, how do you like your chances here tonight in this 2-hour event?
Well, I found that in iRacing, the longer the race, the lower my chances of doing well. Usually, those two kind of go together. I find that unlike in a real car, it's difficult sometimes to maintain my focus for 2 straight hours. But I'm thinking tonight, last race of the year, I'm going to put everything out there on the line, and hopefully I'll have a better performance in the past couple of weeks, which have been disappointing, especially at Sonoma, which is literally my home track as I live 30 minutes away. I would have liked to have done better there. So hopefully tonight, a little bit better performance.
Well, best of luck to both of you. Again, resilienceracingfoundation.org to learn more. Caleb, John, thank you both so much for spending some time with us here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
And I'm going to throw it back over to Andrew Cardinale, who's going to spend some time with Timothy Bernard here as we throw him up into the broadcast booth.
Yeah, we got a lot of guys to talk to this evening, which certainly I think adds a lot to our pre-race coverage. Tim Bernard, it's been a pleasure watching you take to, well, all kinds of great racetracks here through North America, virtually anyways, with the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League, and it's a pleasure now to talk to you finally. Want to, first off, just ask you to tell the viewers a bit about yourself and why we should be looking out for that 47 car on the racetrack.
Hello, how are you all doing this? Well, I served the military for 12 years before getting medically discharged, and I was a bit lost. I was searching for purpose, and Operation Motorsports gave me a shot. I actually went to Watkins Glen, and I was a photographer for them down there, and helped out Diesel and the Operation Motorsports team over there.
Absolutely, and we've been hearing a lot about these stories. We kind of hear about them more of in like a telephone kind of situation where we hear about them from somebody who heard about them almost, is how it kind of feels. Tell us firsthand how OPMO has benefited you as, well, part of the beneficiary class here on iRacing.
Well, for me specifically, they've actually helped me out by loaning me a steering wheel to actually improve a lot better. I was using a Xbox controller to drive around, and it was kind of frustrating. So they gave me that. They trusted me with their equipment, and they allowed me to drive with their. They gave me a Thrustmaster Sparko steering wheel. And yeah, then they gave me something to focus on, like driving and figuring out how it all gets put together, and all the work that actually goes into it. It's not just the driver on the track. You actually have all this setup that needs to be done, fuel management, all the pit strategy, and on all this other stuff that goes unnoticed when you're watching it on the TV.
Absolutely, it's it's easy to call the race and kind of just see it as a bunch of drivers, see it as a bunch of pixels, but it really is nice to be able to touch base with you guys, talk with you guys, and learn about your lives away from iRacing and learn about the personalities that you guys have. I think that changes the game entirely, and is really an honor for us to be able to talk to you guys and to learn about some of that. So I guess as we go into the final race here, Timothy, what are your final thoughts on this season? How do you feel about looking forward to the next season of the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League?
I'm really excited for the next season. Hopefully I can get a lot more practice in to be a bit more competitive. My main weakness is that I guess I lose a little bit of focus around halfway through, and then I end up in the wall or something. So hopefully I can work on that and get a little bit more practice and to be a little bit more competitive.
Absolutely. Well, Tim, I want to say thank you so much for taking some time with us, talking to us this evening. Really appreciate your time, and wish you the best of luck. We'll be watching out for that 47 car, and we'll be watching for you to go up there and make some noise this afternoon.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity.
So Tim Bernard spending some time with us pre-race here at virtual Sebring International Raceway. And again, I just want to go over the fact that it is so nice to be able to put personalities, if not faces, to names here with the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League. That changes the perspective entirely, I think. It's easy for us to sit here, and it's easy for us to just look at the sim and look at our screens and just talk about the pixels, but it changes everything when you talk to these guys and hear their stories and learn about the personalities behind it. With that, though, we'll turn it over to Eric Brennan once more, and he's got Justin Jarrett alongside.
Yeah, continuing with our theme, we're going to welcome Justin Jarrett to the broadcast booth. And Justin, you're from the Northeast United States, former U.S. Army veteran, and you now find yourself being fully immersed in this level of motorsports through not just Operation eMotorsport, but Operation Motorsports as a whole. And according to the bio that I had a chance to read, you said that you love this organization because it offers you a chance to explain your racing portfolio. It seems like you love just about anything with a motor and tires. If you can, tell us what it is that, kind of excites you about Operation Motorsports and all that it's done for you and your long-standing passion for racing.
Honestly, one of the big things that Operation Motorsports has really done for me is giving me a chance to truly push myself into learning the asphalt road side of iRacing and racing in general. Something that I've always wanted to learn and always have really, really struggled with. And I think over the course of this season, I've gotten a little bit better each race.
Yeah, it looks so that you used to watch your cousin race go-karts. You love helping out in your cousin's 305 wing sprint car, so that explains some of the love for the dirt stuff as well. But here on this side of the fence, you get to race against people who have similar stories or similar experiences as you did. What does that mean to you, knowing all that you're doing to be encompassed in a series and an event that is doing so much for the military and former military members?
Oh, it means a lot, honestly. This community is great. There's a lot of really skilled drivers here. There's a lot of even beginner guys like myself, and just to be around such a massive variety of driver skill set is amazing. And it's a great opportunity what they do in here for the vets, helping us out, get in here, getting us a chance to experience some road racing and racing with other vets.
It does sound like a true family environment. And even though, everybody's been tossing around the term family, it is still a competition. And in just a little bit, we're going to start to qualify for our races here tonight. So we're here at Sebring, just on the heels of the 12 Hours of Sebring this upcoming weekend. So, Justin, what do you think of the track? And what do you think of your chances tonight to put up a positive result to close out this winter season?
Honestly, it's going to be a crap shot. If I can keep it clean, I think I have a good chance. If I keep on throwing up some mistakes, then it's going to be rough. I'm also running on new pedals today for the first time, so there's going to be a whole new ball game with that as well that I'm dealing with.
Well, Justin, as the son of a former Army veteran, first off, want to thank you for your service. Also, want to thank you for being a part of this series, and want to thank you for joining us before you get set to go on in there and do battle against the competition here to see how you can wrap up your season. Justin Jarrett, thanks for joining us here today, and best of luck tonight.
Thank you, and thank you for having me, and thank you for what you guys do.
Thanks a lot, Justin. We really appreciate it. Again, Justin Jarrett, who is one of the beneficiaries you can watch out for in tonight's race. And I'll toss it back over to Andrew Cardinale as we continue on with this little pre-race lead-in to tonight's Operation eMotorsport season finale.
Thank you, Eric. And we'll keep this next part a little bit brief because these two guests, that's right, two guests once more, they've got some duties here in a little while to tend to, and that just may be trying to one-up one another for the final time this season. We welcome none other than our two beneficiary points battlers, the two favorites for the championship all season long, Hunter Eve and Theo Brolsma. Guys, welcome to the booth.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
And so, guys, you've gone back and forth, and I feel like this theme has been this way for a while between you two, going all the way back to the Miatos last season. It's been back and forth between you guys, trying to see who's going to take the championship this season. It's now looking admittedly a little bit like Hunter has a pretty nice gap, but Theo, how are you going to try and change that this evening?
I just hope to qualify well. I've been working on my qualifying all season, and I think the results have started to show. I started to qualify Hunter, even if I can't beat him in a race, so hopefully I can do that, and then just stay clean. It's a long race, and anything can happen.
So on the other side of that here, Hunter, how are you going to try and keep Theo behind you? How are you going to try and one-up him here in the final race of the season?
I'm just focused on driving clean and staying out of the wall. Finish first, race to much finish.
Absolutely, and I want to give you guys kind of a moment to just kind of open mic it here. Tell us about describe your battles all season long, trying to keep track of one another. And I know, Hunter, just going off the stat line, you've won up Theo 6 times. I'm not saying that to kind of come after you there, Theo, but I mean, you guys have been on top of one another, and what that stat doesn't show is that, Theo, you've been right there every step of the way. How has it been just trying all season long to get after that guy, or in your case, Hunter, try and stay ahead of him?
Well, it's always a little bit difficult because like your closest competitor is what really pushes you and drives you, and I think sometimes when I've had an opportunity, I push just a little bit too hard, and that's that's why I've crashed out a couple times. But Hunter's been extremely consistent, and it's great to race against him. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if I have a bad night, he wins the championship. So I'm still have to work really hard to try and win it. And yeah, he's been there the whole season, making the right moves. So still got a lot of work to do. I still haven't won it, so we'll see what happens tonight.
Yeah, I think the fact that it is 6 wins to 1 and Theo is still there proves the consistency behind the number 24 car. And before we let you guys go, qualify and well, try and battle one more time this season, I gotta ask. Theo, I'll ask you first, 'cause that's kind of been the order. Theo, what's the big reason, for anybody watching that maybe doesn't know you yet, what's the reason to watch the 24 car tonight?
Oh, that's really put me on the spot. I didn't have something ready for that. Well, I think I've been in close battles with everyone around me all season. I really haven't had any spot at any point in the entire season where I'm kind of on my own. So it's whether I'm battling other pros or other open class drivers who just happen to be, running consistent laps, same as me. I always end up in some good little racing, so should be exciting.
And Hunter, same question to you.
Yeah, it's same boat. That's a tough one. I'm going to emulate Jimmy Spencer and be Mr. Excitement tonight. So I think that's the reason. Good reason.
Well, there you go. We got one guy who's always in the thick of things and one guy who calls himself Mr. Excitement now. I think that's reason to watch the 24 and the 44 this evening. Theo Bralsema and Hunter Reeve. Guys, thank you so much for your time. And, well, go out there and rock it in qualifying, and we'll be seeing you, I'm sure, talking to one of you here towards the end of the evening.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
That's Hunter Reeve and Theo Bralsema once more. And I just want to thank all of the guys that we had on this evening for their time. I want to thank everybody for their cooperation and just putting together these pre-race interviews. This is something we haven't done before with the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League, so to be able to present this kind of thing, to be able to come in and talk to the guys who are the core of this series and are the core of Operation Motorsport, specifically Operation eMotorsport, it's really, really cool. And again, I want to drive home the point that for us at least, and I can't speak on how it is as a viewer, but for us at least, talking about this series, it's very humbling, and it completely changes an attitude. It completely changes a perspective on things. When you talk to these guys, you hear their stories, you hear about their personalities. It changes everything, and I'm sure you can probably relate a little bit there, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was captivated by this series once I first got to be able to do a couple races through Season 1 last year. And like I said when I was talking earlier to Justin Jarrett, I mean, I'm in a family that was full of Army veterans, and my father was somebody who, even though he was able to wrap up his 4-year tenure, he really doesn't go back and talk about a lot of that time for obvious reasons. And there are a lot of people who go through similar circumstances, and they go about handling it different ways. And that's the beautiful thing about not just this series, but this organization. And we want to just kind of exemplify the fact that this organization is a lot more than just this eMotorsports sector that we're able to highlight each and every Tuesday night for the last 8 weeks. And to learn more information, I want to direct everybody over to operationmotorsport.org, and you can learn more about all the programs that are available. If you or your loved one, or you happen to have a friend who you may know who could benefit from something such as this, motorsports is an incredible alternative to trying to get back to feeling some of the emotions and just get you back in a competitive spirit or a high intensity or high octane environment. And I would advise anybody to take a look at this, because all these programs are phenomenal, and they are truly, and we've heard it, so many examples of it, serving their purpose to all the beneficiaries in the field here tonight.
Yeah, exactly. And as I said from day one, back in VIR last season, not being from the US, or I guess from North America, it's a completely different scenario. It's a wake-up call essentially for me, because we just don't have it here where I live. So, just seeing all these stories kind of makes me a bit emotional, just hearing the stories from these guys and, connecting those guys to, I guess, back to planet Earth with motorsport is just something extremely nice. And it's so nice to be doing this, every single Tuesday, I guess, just popping out here, just doing, as Andrew said, the easy part, and just, seeing these guys having a blast on motor racing essentially is just something humbling. I just don't have a lot of words. It's gonna make me a bit emotional again, but yeah, this is just an amazing opportunity, and it's amazing to see what these guys can do here.
Absolutely. These guys have a lot of stories that will tug on the heartstrings, especially, man, I mean, there's so many. I don't know if I can even put my thumb on one, but it's huge to be able to talk to these guys and hear from them, and that importance, I think, can never be played down. With this kind of all wrapping up, we do want to take another step back. We'll be right back momentarily after a couple of messages here. We've got a lot to do this evening. 2 hours of racing. We've got to crown 3 champions. A lot's going on here at the virtual Sebring International Raceway. Thank you so much for joining us here at Pit Stop TV. While we're away, if you don't kind of watch through these little videos here, what I want you all to do is I want you to go to your browser, be it Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, whatever it is, even Safari on your phone. I want you to go to operationmotorsport.org/donate. Because that is the donation link for Operation Motorsport. We've got it in our description on YouTube. If you're watching over on our YouTube here at Pit Stop TV, it is down there in the description. You can hit show more down at the bottom, and you can see that, and it should take you right to it. Again, operationmotorsport.org/donate. You can donate to Operation Motorsport and help further the cause. That said, we're going to take that step back. We'll take a step away. We'll be right back to you momentarily with resuming coverage, kind of more normal coverage this time for Operation eMotorsport iRacing League presented by RECARO, round number 8 from Sebring International Raceway. Again, this is a 2-hour race, bit of an endurance test for these drivers. We'll be right back to you to present it all in just a few moments.
Sebring International Raceway, the birthplace of American endurance racing.
Sebring is a lot of fun, a huge amount of history. Sebring, 12 hours, one of the hardest, most physical tracks on driver.
That is awesome racing.
Sebring is bumpy.
Hashtag respect the bumps.
Sebring is intense.
12-hour racing is demanding on the cars and the drivers as well.
Sebring has got to be the most challenging racetrack on planet Earth.
There's really nothing else quite like Sebring.
On the Porsche GT3 with Park Racing and Volt Racing. I got a phone call from the USO Pathfinder group, and they kind of informed me, and all I heard was cars, Lambos, Porsches, and I was like, yep, good to go. The opportunity that you get just to be able to come out here and actually see these kind of cars, work with teams on hand, and learn. And they don't just say, well, get out of my way and move, and I'll do it. They know. They teach you. That's the favorite part right there.
Could you think of a better destination to wrap up the 2021 Winter League season for Operation eMotorsports other than Sebring International Raceway? I think not, especially in terms of when we are going to do so in a similar fashion which we kicked off the season also in Florida, but at the Daytona International Speedway with a bit of an extra distance event to settle our final event of the season, wrap up our championships, and for one last time shine a spotlight on some of the drivers and stories that make up Operation eMotorsports once more. This is the season finale for the 2021 Winter League season for Operation eMotorsport, and it's coming up live on Pit Stop TV. Good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to the virtual Sebring International Raceway. What a beautiful sight that we have here with this overhead perspective, and I am thrilled to be bringing you live coverage of tonight's racing event. I'm Eric Brennan. Pleasure to be with you on the call once again. Going to be joined by JP Costa, who stands virtually alongside in the booth, albeit physically quite the ways away. Trey Shuttlesworth is holding it down on social media, and you heard the voice of Andrew Cardinale IV a little while ago. He's back in his production chair doing a magnificent job, giving us so many unique perspectives of this track, layout, and upcoming event. Now, JP, we highlighted in our pre-race event that this racetrack that measures 3.6 miles in length, it may look pleasant, it may look promising, it may be many of these drivers' favorites, but it's tough, very tough. Tell us why.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very, very difficult racetrack. As you can see, it's covered around side of it in grass, but not only that, obviously the concrete surface doesn't give the best of grip as compared to asphalt. The new updates kind of changed the way the GT4 cars are working, with some difficulties towards the BMW drivers, but I guess the biggest part, and I guess one of the call-outs from this racetrack, because obviously the bumps is on the call-out for Sebring's 12-hour event. Just respect the bumps. You know, it's a track that hasn't been resurfaced, it's just embracing its own history, and I guess that's the most difficult. Obviously, we do have a few of the curves, as you can see, some drivers going through the final section as they head into Le Mans, and you know, it's just a racetrack full of difficult corners, difficult curves, difficult exits, and it is an incredibly long racetrack as well. As you can see, 3.6 mile, 5.79 kilometers, pretty much 6 kilometers. It's a massive racetrack, so keeping your focus, keep hitting the tires, as you can see, they're unfortunately just running a bit wide. You know, just all of that is just a challenge in itself on this mammoth of a circuit.
And there are so many things to take into consideration. And, you know, you look at the perspective of some of these drivers. Some areas there's grass, not a lot of runoff area. Others, there's pavement for what looks like days. But if you get offline here, it's going to not only kill the lap time, obviously, but even in some of the most forgiving looking corners that you can maybe mess up or push it over the edge a little bit, there's major consequences to be had. And we're going to possibly see that unfold here throughout the rest of the night. Now, there are a lot of things that we were taking into consideration throughout the evening as well, and that is the championship complexion. Let's take a look at this. Now, the pros you see highlighted in blue, the beneficiaries in green, and the open in red. And the wins are pretty much stacked towards the top of the championship standing for the most part. And as you can see, when it comes to the beneficiaries, Hunter Reeve has pretty much been the guy to beat in all but one race. And JP, judging by our pre-race interview that Andrew Cardinale IV had with Hunter, he's not totally convinced that he has this thing sewed up. He kind of mentioned, you know, this is a big one. It's a long race. And he thinks that if he makes a mistake tonight, that Theo Broselma is going to pounce.
Yeah, exactly. And that has been the story of the season, you know, just consistency, just getting those mistakes to an absolute minimum, if none possible, on the race. Obviously tonight we have an endurance event, essentially a 2-hour race, so keeping mistakes is going to be essential, especially because these two guys have been separated by less than a tenth of a second over in practice lap times. So between those two, there's going to be absolutely nothing tonight on the racetrack. So both Theo and Hunter are going to be on the edge of the seats, trying to minimize all mistakes possible to try and get that championship.
Now, when you look at the pros, that's been the most competitive class of racing action all season long. Only 2 drivers have won more than one race. Brandon Egerchek, the point leader, is one of them. The other is Chris Walsh, who, when he's not racing, typically joins us in the broadcast booth. He won the last time out at Mid-Ohio for the pros, and he took the overall. But as you see, Shane Hunter, who has not won, he's actually not in the field tonight. I mentioned a little bit earlier, he wasn't going to be able to make the race. We'll see if he's able to retain his 3rd spot in points. And Chris Bailey, who is the only open driver, one of the few open drivers who's able to capture top honors. But with that, he also is the only open competitor to win an overall event. He actually did it twice in both the Canadian rounds, back at round 4 at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and at round 5 at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Rodney Campbell looking for a victory, but that points margin may be a little bit too much to make up. But still, one last chance to capture top honors in these 3 competitive classes. And as you see the identifiable colors, that's also going to be noted on the cars themselves. And we'll touch on that as we get a little bit further into tonight's broadcast. But that's how the season championship stands across those 3. And speaking of mistakes, how about Christopher Bailey running a little bit wide and catching the wall? That's unfortunately been a bit of a theme for that of Christopher Bailey. And I say that as he was the winner at Mid-Ohio last time out. But in the 2 rounds prior, one of which even led to a victory at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, we've seen some uncharacteristic errors by that of Bailey. He's obviously pushing to find the limits here, JP, en route to tonight's racing event. And it looks as though he's finding those limits rather quickly.
Yeah, exactly. In qualifying, it's all about pushing the absolute limit, trying to iron out those mistakes that we just saw from him, unfortunately. But you know, if you want to make a mistake right now, obviously is the time. You can just quickly tow back to the pits and get your car brand new. But obviously that could hurt your confidence, you know, knowing that you pushed that on the last lap and unfortunately caught up the dirt and ended up on the wall. That could be, you know, a factor that could hurt your, I guess, your mind, essentially your mindset for the race. But I'm sure he's just gonna, you know, quickly snap out of it as he did throughout the season. But hopefully we're not gonna see any mistakes from him, because so far he sits on pole position.
Yeah, so far, great run by Bailey, who is the quick time setter so far here at the Sebring International Raceway. And here's a look at how they run for the time being. As I mentioned, that Chris Walsh is moving up into P1 there by a considerable margin. The pro driver, who's joined us in the broadcast booth a couple of times this season, won the last time out at Mid-Ohio, and very openly said in Victory Lane after the fact that he was hyped to get to Sebring. This is a venue which he thought that he would have a chance to come on out and back up the performance that he showed 1 week ago. And he put an absolute whooping on the field last week. I mean, he left them all in the dust, rarely made one mistake. I believe he had one near miss with a lap car. But besides that, it was a picture-perfect evening. But the one thing we're going to talk about tonight, though, JP, this race is twice as long as what we're normally used to. That's going to multiply the importance of pit strategy and multiply the chances of a mistake, specifically when dealing with lap traffic. And Sebring could be very tough when dealing with lap cars as well.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I guess we're gonna have at least 2 pit stops. We could be seeing a few strategies coming up with 3 stops, trying to get the car just running a bit lighter. Not very likely, but you know, could be happening. Also, as you mentioned, lapped cars, that's going to be an essential factor, because it's really important for you to actually catch the lapped car in one of the massive straights that we have here. We have several, I guess we could count at least 4, you know, decently sized straights. But if you do get it within sequence of turns 4, 5, and 6, you know, it could cost you a bit of time. Again, on the last sector, just before Le Mans, it could cost you a lot of time as well. So, you know, those strategies, knowing when to attack the lapped car and when to commit, it's going to be essential to avoid losing heaps amount of time.
Absolutely. Just a couple of elements of tonight's race that we're going to keep in mind. And as we got about 7.5 minutes left to go in the session, let's give a quick shout out to the league partners of Operation Motorsport for this 2021 season. We saw the graphic momentarily, RECARO, who do so much for Operation Motorsport, and we'll tell you a little bit more about them later. But RECARO Automotive puts people first every time, and also Mobile One, who has been a longtime supporter of Operation eMotorsport as well. And you also see some of the partners here on Pit Stop TV, who we will shout out throughout the night a little bit later on as well. As you see here, qualifying continuing with right now Walsh, Bailey, Burkhalter. And here's one of the hills in the field. As a matter of fact, the Brothers Hill both had a great run last time out. And right now we are watching another one of the open competitors. And you can see Trevor Hill here kind of representing these guys very well. And look at the diversity amongst the running order right now. You've got a pro who's fastest, an open driver second quickest, albeit there's a 3/4 of a second difference. Then you got Dustin Burkhalter. Then you got Charlie Bass, so pair of pros. Then we're back to Trevor Hill, who's an open competitor. And how about Theo Broselma? I mean, so far, he appears to have an edge in the beneficiary ranking. Still a long way to go, though, in this session, and a long way to go in this race. But Theo's looking pretty sporty so far.
Yeah, exactly. Theo actually improved by 0.2 of a second his practice lap time, and well, luckily for him, Hunter Reeves seems to be struggling a bit in qualifying at the moment, and that could be a major advantage and a major swing at the championship. You know, if Hunter Reeves just unfortunately gets caught up, let's say, in an early instant, because obviously you want to be as far forward as possible to avoid those first lap incidents, which we haven't actually seen at all from this season. But you know, anything can happen in Sebring. So Theo just doing absolutely everything he can early on in the session, I guess, with 5 minutes to go. He's doing absolutely everything he can to try and get that last shot at that championship.
Yeah, and Brolsema, who looks as though he may pull over here and abandon this lap. We also had a chance to talk to him a little bit earlier tonight, and he seemed very upbeat. And Hunter Reeve, who's on your screen right now, he was a little bit more strictly business, kind of focused on the task at hand and kind of ready to see what it's going to take. And the most impressive element, in my opinion, from Hunter Reeve's season, especially over the last few weeks, not only did he capture top honors for the beneficiaries, but last week at Mid-Ohio, top 5 in the overall. The week before that, back at Sonoma, he finished on the podium in the overall. I mean, that's an incredible run for a driver who was a part of the Season 1 edition of Operation eMotorsports, came back here, and he just continues to improve. And as he spoke on earlier in the pre-race show, there's a lot more that goes into making, you know, these cars and these the ability to compete in these events possible. There's a lot of technology and equipment advances and an evolution that continues to try to make it more comfortable and feasible for some of these drivers, and that makes the performance we've seen out of Hunter Reeve all that more incredible. And the same goes for Theo Broselma as well. Now, with about 4.5 minutes left to go, we're looking at Thomas Outzen, who's carrying the Resilience Racing livery on his car. This driver also had an opportunity to capture a win this season. He won the open event back at Sonoma, looking for his second of the season as Outzen. But boy, Mid-Ohio was not kind to Thomas Outzen. Actually expressed afterwards at a post-race event that there was an iRacing build that came out just prior to that event, as he's got a car spinning just in front of him, and he said, "Oh, and Outsen's going to get caught off guard there." That was a hard hit. He expressed that the build may have caught him off guard, didn't get enough practice under the new changing environment and circumstances, but so far here today, he's up in the top 10 of this session, and we'll see what ends up happening here with about 3.5 minutes to go.
I guess we just saw what the bumps can happen on the final corner. No, we just had a prime example. The bumps unfortunately caught John Winker off, if I'm not mistaken, and unfortunately he just overcorrected the car, and unfortunately that was on the path of Thomas Outzen. And well, as you can see now, we just have a few minutes to go. The drivers are obviously now just setting up for their final lap time, qualifying laps, essentially. A big lap, over 2 minutes and 10, so 2 laps to go. It's time to push everything to the maximum, ignore all the mistakes, and try not to get an off track so you can get the best possible starting position.
So Charlie Bass is now up in the 4th spot here in the session. He's going to come to the line, try to improve on that. This time through, not going to happen. But as you mentioned, he may, if he elects to stay on track, he may have about 2 laps in. But look at him toss that thing down there into turn number 1. Sliding. The one thing I loved, if you didn't get a chance to see it earlier when we had our side-by-side up, both of which was driven by Chris Walsh, the amount of counter steer that comes into play in turn 1. If you're on full attack mode, is incredible. And we just saw Charlie Bass kind of seesawing on that as well. So Bass is continuing on here for this qualifying lap, trying to beat the time that was set by Chris Well. And here's what we were talking about. This is the approach that we were mentioning here down into turn number 1. And just watch, in both instances, you're going to see him counter steer very quickly coming through the first corner. Doesn't matter what car you're in, it seems, and you still have to be able to keep up with the rear tires while coming through that fast left-handed corner. And that's exactly what we saw Charlie Bass do there on his qualifying lap. But I love this view here, JP. It gives you a real idea as to how bumpy this track can be and how some cars may seem to endure it a little bit better than others.
Yeah, exactly. This just shows the difference in qualities, I guess, between the Porsche and the BMW throughout the circuit. As you can see, both heading to the braking zone. And, well, they're both pretty similar, and unfortunately the new build has unfortunately hindered a lot of the BMW. We're seeing a lot of mistakes, and luckily tomorrow we're going to see a patch that may fix that. But essentially they're pretty similar. As you can see on the racetrack, the Porsche seems to be a tad bit faster, but you know, the BMW, as Andrew said on the pre-race show, I guess, it just can stretch out its muscles, you know, throughout the straights, and it could really help some of the drivers here tonight to overcome some of those difficulties, you know, some of the massive straights. As you can see, unfortunately in the corners, the Porsche is just so much more agile. As you can see, Chris just throwing the car in there. Essentially, it just seems a lot more confident in the Porsche, but you know, both cars are pretty equal. Unfortunately, the BMW is struggling a bit more throughout the corners, but it can stretch out its muscles a lot better on the straights.
And hats off to our production team and Chris Walsh for being able to help us out with this, because this is absolutely incredible, and it's the best visualization that we could put together to show to maybe some of the casual sim racing viewers that there is in fact a difference between each car, and it's visible, and there's also a difference in which they have to attack each individual corner, and there's a difference in the way the car handles, as JP has outlined throughout most of that lap. But here they come up to Sunset Bend, which this is the corner that looks like it goes on forever, but it clearly doesn't. You don't have an opportunity to keep your foot in there all too long before that car settles to get off. But this is the overhead look at this beautiful and majestic circuit that's going to shine in the spotlight a couple nights from now, as the annual 12 Hours of Sebring is set to take place this coming weekend for the IMSA sports cars. And I'll tell you, it's great to see the fact that it's back in its somewhat traditional time slot on the schedule. Last year was delayed big time due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and as things start to get back to a bit of a relative normal, this venue is going to be loud and boisterous for the 12 hours once again. And I'm not sure about everybody else who may be watching, but we'll definitely have our eyes on that one for sure. But tonight, it is in the spotlight for our season finale for the Operation eMotorsports Winter League season. 3 more opportunities, or I should say 3 checkered flags remain for everybody for their last shot to capture one of them in their respective classes, and we'll sew up the championships tonight as well. And JP, I just love some of these scenic views that we have here that kind of show the true layout of this circuit. And turn 1's another one that we touched on a couple times here today, where it looks wide, it looks forgiving, but it certainly narrows up on corner exit there, because that grass and curbing comes up real quick.
Yeah, exactly. Turn 1 is such a misleading corner. You feel like you have so much runoff areas, and unfortunately that grass just comes up so quickly. As you can see now, the sequence of turns 3, 4, and 5. This is another sequence that drivers will have to get absolutely pinpoint perfect, because they're going to have a massive lead off onto the big back straight, I guess one of the back straights on this racetrack, as they head down into, I guess, the banner on turn 6. And obviously they're going to be heading, I guess, one of the many overtaking points, but I guess the main one on this racetrack, the big hairpin. As you can see there, just the exit of turns 5. And well, this racetrack is going to offer us a lot of overtaking opportunities, and I guess we're just going to see a lot of them. You know, mistakes can happen, as we saw in qualifying, and this is a prime racetrack where you can actually pull a lot of that time back.
Yeah, and being mistake-free may be the secret ingredient as far as getting the job done here tonight across this 2-hour event, and that's going to play a big role into how things pan out. And another thing we're going to keep an eye on here, of course, is going to be that of pit strategy. Now, the fuel is set to 75%, so we're not sure exactly how many pit stops we're going to see unfold just yet. I have not had the chance to test it out, and JP, if you know more, then please feel free to chime in. But pit strategy, usually in the other races that we would have, they would dial back the fuel setting to give us one stop just past halfway. So we'll see how it unfolds here tonight for this 2-hour event. But it is just a beautiful night in the virtual world that is the Sebring International Raceway. And as you can see, this track offers up so many unique challenges and twists and turns. And I mean that both literally and figuratively. And it's about to serve as the last test for these competitors as we get set to roll off the field here and go racing for what's going to be a thriller for this final event, 2 hours deep. And JP, I don't know about you, but between the storylines that make up this season and these drivers, these series, between the ever competitive bouts between the pros, the opens, and how quick and up to pace the beneficiaries have been this season, there's so much to be excited about as this season draws to a close. And as we look back and reflect retroactively, or retrospectively, I should say, I'm thrilled to say that we were happy to do this together. This has been amazing, and we got one more to go. And it's going to be a 2-hour endurance event, and I'm pretty excited to get this one underway, my friend.
Yeah, me too. It's been an absolutely blast throughout the season, and well, as you said, Sebring is just a perfect way to set off, I guess, one of the best circuits in North America. Obviously, you guys have plenty of circuits there, amazing circuits, but this one is going to be an absolutely blast to finish off, and I'm glad to do it not only with you, but with this amazing team. And well, I guess we do have some of the drivers do have a few unfinished businesses with one another, you know, a few on-track battles still to settle, and I'm pretty sure everybody's going to be absolutely hyped for this 2-hour, again, an endurance event. It's not going to be something that they're used to, an absolutely endurance event, an absolutely amazing event here tonight.
Yeah, we're very excited for what's to come, as we're going to be gritting up here shortly for this event. And want to just, real quickly shout out again the organization and all their initiatives. And just a reminder, this eMotorsports facet of Operation Motorsports is just one tiny element that encompasses all of what Operation Motorsport is all about. And to learn more about them and their organization, visit operationmotorsport.org. There's also contact forms available there as well. And it's a truly remarkable program with a lot of wonderful people behind it. And we're just happy to be a part of it all as the field starts to come into formation on the main straightaway. Let's take a look at how they're going to line up here for our season finale, with Chris Walsh on the pole again, trying to go back-to-backs to round out the season for the pros, while Christopher Bailey is going to try to do the same and starting second. He's also trying to go back-to-back and sew up the championship for the Open. He'll be starting in second spot. Inside of row number 2, Justin Burkhalter looking for win number 2 on the season, while Charlie Bass will line up outside. He also is looking for his second win on the year for the pros. Rounding out your top 5 is going to be that of Trevor Hill in the 42 after a solid run last week at Mid-Ohio, and David Levine takes you back to 6th in the 259 car. Now back to row number 4, you'll find Theo Broselma, the highest qualifying beneficiary driver, second in points, still has an outside shot at the championship. Thomas Outson will take you back to 8th spot in car 23. He'll start outside of row 4. And rounding out the top 10, Rodney Campbell, who comes into the night up there in points looking for a victory. He is going to start the 62 in 9th, and Sean Knight takes you through your top 10.
Starting off in P11, we do have the pro driver of Brendan Agerchik, definitely going to be looking to make a comeback drive. So as our 12th place starter, Hunter Reeve. Not an unusual qualifying session for him, definitely a bit further back than what he wanted, but I'm sure he's going to be making a great recovery race. Jason Leach, the number 22 Porsche, is going to be starting off in P13, and right alongside him, another beneficiary driver of Callum Belden on the number 11. Justin Jarrett, another beneficiary, is going to be running off in P15 on the number 85 Porsche, and alongside him an all row of beneficiary drivers on row number 8, as Brock Hogan on his 58 BMW is going to be starting off in P16. John Winker on the number 7 BMW is going to be starting off in 17th place on the inside line, and right alongside him the 336 of Brian Winker, another open driver. Jay Gleason is going to be starting off in 19th place on his number 64, and right alongside him on the outside lane is going to be Glenn Gray on his number 45 Porsche.
We'll take you through the rest of the field as Rick Hazlitt in the 69 is going to start 21st. 22nd is going to be Tim Bernard, who we had a chance to talk to earlier here tonight. He'll start in 22nd spot. Back now in the 23rd, Tyler Langenberg in the number 91, our pro driver, is going to round out our fields here tonight for our final event of the season. Langenberg will have to roll off shotgun on the field. As the field now works their way down the far side of the course, they will zigzag their way closer towards the start-finish line before we get this race underway. And JP, final thoughts before we go green here. I think it's going to be a really intense opening few laps. Perhaps guys will settle down. What do you expect to see here on the start?
Well, I guess some drivers are definitely going to be wanting to make some positions because it's essential on this racetrack to have track position. I'm pretty sure some of them will. Obviously, strategy fuel saving could be important on the first part of the race, but we could be seeing 2 stops and even tire strategies here tonight, so that's going to be something to keep an eye out for. But this start is going to be essential for a lot of drivers starting a bit further back than I guess they wished for.
As you can see them come down the Ullman Straight here for the last time under pace speeds. And I agree with you, JP. The start's going to be critical for a lot of guys here tonight, not just for this race, but for the championship as well. Look at that beautiful field of cars behind the Porsche pace car, getting set to be unleashed down towards turn number 1, with Christopher Bailey making up the outside of the front row, and Chris Walsh, who the question is, can anybody beat that driver? While Theo Broselma starts in the middle portion of the top 10, trying to pull the upset as far as the points-paying championship over Hunter Reeve, who starts a little bit further back in the running order. The pace car is going to dive to pit row for the final time on Pit Stop TV for the winter edition in 2021. We are set to go green with the Operation eMotorsport season finale from Sebring. The green flag flies and we are underway for the final time in the Winter League in 2021.
We are already seeing guys going 3 wide as they head into turn 1. Looks like everybody's going to keep it clean. Oh, we do have a bit of contact. It looks like Christopher Bailey got punted, and we do have a few drivers spun around on the back. We do have a big incident on turn 1.
Bailey was one of the first cars to get hip checked by Trevor Hill. Another car went backwards behind him, and turn number 1 continues to be littered with cars. And one of the point leaders in Egerchek is there in the crash. He's going to get the tow back, it looks like. So the pro point leader is having problems here on lap number 1, perhaps a threat to win tonight. And he is involved in a crash in the first corner after a couple of the front runners got together in turn 1.
As you can see, some drivers try to dive in. Looks like some of them just got caught up, I guess, by the big fuel. As you can see, some of them just dropped on the middle, and Brendan had absolutely nowhere to go and unfortunately got collected by another BMW. That looks like Sean Knight's BMW, and unfortunately for him, a terrible start for this 2-hour event race.
I believe Rodney Campbell was also involved there, and Charlie Bass may have been involved in this incident as well. We're going to look on board here with Charlie Bass, or at least we're going to keep our eye on Charlie Bass down the front straightaway, kind of middle of the road, following in the path of Christopher Bailey. And you're going to watch here. It looked like Bass lifted to try to avoid what was happening in front of him, and the car behind was just too close, as you see the wheels flying there in the first turn. I also believe Rodney Campbell was involved in that crash. He was second in the open point, so top 2 in open competition involved in that incident there, and that's really going to shake things up to kick off this race. Fortunately, we got a long way to go, but that's going to allow the top 2 to break free. Walsh out in front, and how about Dustin Burkhalter trying to reap the reward after the problem that Egerchek had in the first corner? He's second and in the slipstream of Walsh, coming down to complete lap 1.
Yeah, Dustin absolutely capitalized perfectly from it, starting P3 right behind Chris Walsh, and luckily for him, avoided all that turn 1 instance. And right now, he finds himself around 0.6 of a second behind Chris. He has to use that slipstream to try and get close, because as we saw, over 1 lap place, Chris is essentially just unbeatable. So Dustin has to do everything that he can, but looks like he just went a tad too wide on turn 1. He's going to be losing a bit of that contact from Chris. And as the battle still goes on behind between Christopher Bailey and David Levine, so some drivers absolutely making huge gains, as Hunter Reeve looks like finds himself in P5 after starting in P12, a dream start for a beneficiary driver and points leader.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Hunter Reeve got through all that, but it is remarkable that he is running in the top 5 right now. And as you can see, Theo Broselma, who was at one point up towards the front of the field, he's now back in 12th after all the carnage was said and done. And JP, weren't we praising the fact that Hunter Reeve has this just masterful ability to be able to get through carnage in front of him. He did it last week at Mid-Ohio, and he's apparently pulled it off again. He's running 5th in the overall here, less than 4 minutes in, after being nowhere near the top 10 when we came to green.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely made up for it on the first lap after a bad qualifying session. Finds himself in a prime position to repeat his feat from last week at top 5. And, well, he did it again. You know, as soon as we think he just came out of everything, he just pulls out an amazing, avoiding skills out of that T1 incident. Well, finds himself in a prime position to, again, not just cruise, but obviously push some of the drivers ahead of him towards this race.
Yeah, just an incredible position to be in as we go on board here with Jason Leach, one of the Open competitors who also has had a terrific start. He's up in the 7th spot, chasing Thomas Outson, fellow Open driver, and this would actually be for 2nd in the Open rankings, even though Bailey's well up the road. And you talk about being able to get away with a near disaster. Bailey pretty much hopped over the tires of Trevor Hill when they made contact in turn 1 while the field wrecked behind them. It was Bailey who was able to land on all 4 wheels, probably has some obvious damage to the left side of that car, but he still runs up in 3rd and a ways up the road from these two as they continue their battles. We get a look here at Bailey with David Levine chasing and not seeing any obvious damage, maybe a little bit of damage to the left side, but he took a pretty significant hit from Hill that time into turn 1, and he keeps on trucking, albeit about 4.5 seconds off the leader. As we drop back here and take a look at Tyler Langenberg, and he started last. I mean, you talk about these guys who made the most of the incident down in turn 1. Langenberg from shotgun on the field to now coming around the outside here of Hogan to solidify his spot in 8th.
Yeah, absolutely amazing start from some of these guys. You know, we're just seeing some massive gains from pretty much all throughout the field for people who started behind, I guess, the first row of cars. And Tyler Langenberg, as you said, 23rd all the way up to 8th right now. So an absolutely fantastic start from him, and showing great confidence as we do have a 4-car battle, looks like, between Theo Brosema, Charlie Bass, and Caleb Beldon as they head into the hairpin.
Yeah, and how about Belden here, currently running in the top 10 right now, in danger possibly of losing that spot as a peak down low is going to come Charlie Bass, and oh, that's going to be tight there as they come to the right-hander. Belden's going to give him room. Bass is trying to climb further up the running order. That was through the hairpin that the pass was made, and Brosema is going to follow through. So Brosema will also follow Bass in the tire tracks. He'll move up into that spot, and Gray is the green car closing in on Belden here as they get back on the binders and come to the right-handed corner. So this is a great 4-car battle for the final spot in the top 10, and a number of different competitors and classes represented as Gray gets off the racetrack. Hang on, he's going to spin across the pavement and tag the guardrail with the left front fender.
Just unfortunately lost the car on exit, looks like. Unfortunately, not enough downforce, looks like, on the rear end of that portion. Luckily for him, just a small kiss on the wall. Definitely is not going to be getting a lot of damage. And I was just going to praise him about his absolutely fantastic start, because he climbed over 7 positions. But unfortunately for him, that small incident is going to be dropping him, looks like, all the way down to 17th at this moment in time. So unfortunately for him, lost quite a bit of that ground that he made on lap 1, but definitely quite a bit of time still to catch all those drivers ahead of him. Sorry.
Yeah, fortunately not sustaining significant damage on that light contact there with the wall. It's going to put him behind the 8 ball, though. But as we mentioned, oh, trouble there. That's coming through the final corner. Got 1 car around, and that's going to be Sean Knight. So, oh, boy, that was very close as Knight is trying to get back underway.
Looks like another mistake on Sunset Hill, as on the absolutely worst part possible, because that's just right on the apex, and unfortunately for some drivers, looks like he almost got collected, but he looks like he's back on pace, as we're going to see now on our Pit Stop TV replay what exactly happened to Sean Knight. So as you can see here, he's just heading to Sunset Bend absolutely normally, and looks like he's just going to drop it on the bumps. He seems to be on the race line, and no, he just goes a bit too wide, and looks like the rear end just dropped, and unfortunately he just kissed the concrete wall a bit. And well, on the absolutely worst part possible, as we do have another Porsche out there, pretty much Jason Leach threading the needle between the BMW, and as you can see, just on the absolute worst part possible, to do a 3-point turn to try to get back on racing conditions.
Man, that was a lot of close calls for Sean Knight. It's been a pretty eventful night for the open drivers. We saw Chris Bailey, that's who Sean Knight was following coming into that corner. He had problems in turn 1, lap 1. Rodney Campbell was collected there. Now it's the final corner for Sean Knight that puts him back in the running order. Let's go on board with Jason Leach. We saw him slide that car out sideways to try to avoid to get by, and you see here a couple of cars already. Oh, Leach started to go around there by himself as he was coming through, it looks like. I'm not even sure he was aware that Knight was stationary in that portion of the racetrack. Now let's go on board with Justin Jarrett and see how he got through.
It looks like Justin Jarrett. Oh, absolutely fantastic reaction there to go the opposite way and avoid that crash. That was absolutely fantastic by Justin. But as we saw, just Jason Leach, unfortunately, it looks like he already was dropping the car mid-corner, and luckily for him, he just found a place to thread the needle and avoid bigger damage. And as you can see now, our reaction king, essentially, Justin Jarrett, looks like he's applying pressure on John Winker at this moment in time. It looks like he has the pace to try and challenge for that 12th spot.
Yeah, we talked about Justin Jarrett. In fact, we talked to Justin Jarrett in the pre-race show, and he was recently crowned the Tyler Daniels Racing Veterans League Points Champion of the Season 1 for street stocks. He's obviously proving that he's got a lot of car control in any form of vehicle that he gets in here on the sim, and he proved it there right here about 1 lap ago, and he's still got his foot in it here, trying to climb further up the running order and trying to put together one of his most solid performances on the night, or I should say on the season. Currently running in 14, trying to get by fellow beneficiary racer in Winker for the spot up ahead. And Hunter Reeve has now fallen out of the top 10. He's currently a little bit further up the road, holding down 12th spot. While Jarrett's going to look inside, now outside as they approach the first, second, now third corner through the left-hander. They're going to get set to come through turns 4 and 5 before they set up for the big bend. And the hairpin may be the next chance that Jarrett has to get the job done, although he's now under pressure from Hazlitt, an open driver who's just behind in this 3-car group.
Yeah, Justin tried to put a move on the outside of turn 1. Unfortunately for him, he unfortunately just ran out of grip essentially on his front tires, and that put him under pressure from Rick Hazlitt. But looks like, oh, he just got onto the rear end of John Winker. Looks like just a love tap between those two, and John goes into the grass. And who's thanking them is Rick Hazlitt, who just got 2 free positions. But John Winker, just an innocent bystander, unfortunately got punted, and it looks like he has a slowdown to serve. Ended up losing 2 positions.
And I will tell you, you did see Justin Jarrett slow way, way down to try to give Winker a chance to catch that car and maybe even rejoin the pack in front of him. I believe that Winker got too far out of Justin Jarrett's vantage point to the left, where he finally realized he was going to have to keep going. But as you mentioned, though, it is going to be Hazlitt who is the beneficiary there, picking up a couple of spots in the process now up into 13th. Let's move further forward here and catch Charlie Bass, who's trying to be on the comeback trail after getting turned around in the first corner. He is now closed up to the backside of another competitor who looks as though he's just going to pull down and let him go, and that's going to be Brock Hogan, who moves aside down the long straightaway here at the Ullman Straight to allow Bass straight on through and move Charlie Bass up to 8th.
Yeah, Brock doing, I guess, one of the smart moves. He probably knows he doesn't have quite a lot of pace to keep up that Porsche behind him, so might as well just pull out. Obviously, we still have over an hour and 45 minutes of racing left, and just allow that Porsche to pretty much carry you forwards into the field. Obviously, Brock is still in an absolutely fantastic position inside the overall top 10, so he's obviously, I'm pretty sure he's happy and excited about this result, and if he can use Charlie Bass's pace to keep propelling him forward, he's definitely going to be thankful. But obviously, he has to keep in mind that Theo Brosema looks like is behind him, and looks like just ahead we do have Jason Leach battling for position against trying to chase down Tyler Lingenberg.
Yeah, Leach is having an incredible run here tonight, and this is coming even with the semi-spin and slide through the final corner a couple laps ago, and actually starting to pressure Tyler Langenberg, whose last to 6th place effort has appeared to have stalled out for the time being. Still got a long way to go here as we inch a little bit closer to the 1 hour and 45 minute mark remaining. Officially, you can see on the top left-hand portion of your screen, 1 hour and 47 plus minutes to go, with Leach now trying to perhaps learn a little bit here from Langenberg after he's been very quick since the word go. These two starting to have a little bit of a tussle themselves. Again, this is for 6th spot as they work the far side of the racetrack, with Langenberg holding down that 6th position. Leach, though, in a solid top 10 spot, holding down 7th, with Bass about 2 seconds behind them.
Ooh, it looks like we do have the 259 of David Levine, who unfortunately spun right ahead of those two, right ahead of Langenberg and Jason Leach. Looks like Jason's just going to be slotting in behind, but unfortunately for the pro driver, looks like an odd mistake from him as they head now into the sequence of Le Mans. But, you know, not something we have been seeing from pro drivers, a lot of mistakes, but, you know, definitely showing that this track can catch out every single class of driver here tonight.
Yeah, Levine, the next victim, I would say, of what looked like an incident down in the hairpin. We're going to go back and see what happened here to the driver who's running up in the top 5 at the time. And this is, in fact, coming through the hairpin here, actually approaching, it looks like, that portion of the racetrack. And it's turn 14. I stand corrected. So he's coming through here. You see him get on the brakes, back into the car a little light, a little bit of a bounce there in the front end, and it looks like the left side tires went off of the rumble strip, and that car went around. Great job by David Levine not to get into the guardrail, and he found a quick avenue to let that car loop back forward. Langenberg was going to get by him, though, for that spot, and that's going to tighten up that battle for 5th position on back.
And I guess that just highlights again Tyler Langenberg keeping his nose clean, starting 23rd, finding himself all the way up in 5th right now. So doing an absolutely fantastic job on tonight's race. But David Levine looks like it's not all games and looks like it's not done, as Charlie Bass looks like got ahead of Jason Leach on the previous lap, and looks like now he's gonna be on the charge to pass his fellow pro driver of David Levine.
Yeah, Levine now, and after you have a moment like that, I would imagine it takes some time, as we see high above the hairpin. Absolutely love that shot as they head up towards the Fangio through 8 and 9. For David Levine, when you have a moment like that breaks your rhythm, kind of throws you off your game for a minute, maybe even catches you by surprise, and, you know, even from the sim racing driver's seat, it could be a little bit startling. You know, you're kind of in a groove running by yourself, working on clicking off lap times and hitting your number. All of a sudden, you're swapping ends and trying to keep that car out of the wall. It could take a couple laps before you get back into a bit of a groove, and now you got cars in front of you, behind you, so he's going to be trying to get back into a bit of a rhythm here as we now go back here and on board with Theo Brosema, who runs in the 10th spot. Brock Hogan is the car up ahead. Hogan is actually the highest running beneficiary right now in the field after being able to navigate his way through multiple circumstances in front of him. As a matter of fact, we've got 4 beneficiaries running 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, all in lockstep formation, with these 2 being the highest as they come off Lamar's corner and down the Ullman Straight, with Brosema trying to get back up into P1. That would be for the beneficiaries, P9 on the track.
Looks like Taylor Langenberg, as we look forward, looks like, as you said, Theo Brosema is doing an absolutely fantastic job. As you can see now, some drivers just absolutely throwing the car into Sunset Bend, just showing everybody how it's done. And as you can see, just throwing absolutely everything on the exit. And, you know, the beneficiary class battle is just absolutely fantastic. Rick Hazlitt, unfortunately, 13th place, just breaks out from the top 5, essentially, from the beneficiary. But Brock Hogan is doing absolutely fantastic to hold off all those drivers, and still, I guess, pulling out an unexpected race so far for him.
Yeah, it's been great so far. Oh, look at that. Levine got up the racetrack. Charlie Bass had a look. He's going to tuck back in line. This is incredible racing that's going on for the final spot in the top 5, and that slip by Levine cost both these drivers some ground to the driver who holds the spot for now, and Tyler Langenberg, while Levine had his hands full with Charlie Bass, and I believe Bass cut him a break there as he got up the racetrack, coming to the hairpin once more. These 3 cars again, 5th, 6th, and 7th, Langenberg, Levine, Bass, currently battling for position, and a great 3-car tussle out of the exit of the hairpin, and this battle will continue to rage on. And not that far behind them is Jason Leach, who's trying to close, and if these guys continue to slip and slide their way around, Leach is going to arrive on the scene to try to crack the top 5 himself as Levine slides wide again.
Looks like David Levine is definitely feeling the pressure right now from Charlie Bass. Both pro drivers trying to pass one another. As you can see, Charlie Bass just putting the nose on each and every single corner possible to try and force a mistake again out of David Levine. It looks like he's kind of feeling the pressure, as you can see, making a few mistakes here and there. And looks like he just lost the contact for Tyler Langenberg. Looks like Tyler's just shooting his way into the sunset, and those 2 are going to be locked in a battle. So David Levine has to, as you said, get out of essentially that bubble after his mistake and just focus on catching the car ahead to try and get back on his rhythm that he found himself before that spin.
Yeah, so great battles that are going on here that we have all throughout the pack. And you can see everybody on the Ulm straight for the time being try to, and the field is still pretty close. Even though we're 20 minutes into this 2-hour affair, you can still see just how in close proximity these positions, or these battle for positions, are pretty much from 5th on back. But let's move up here as Christopher Bailey and Burkhalter have gotten together here for the 2nd spot, and Bailey appears to be on the move. Remember, Burkhalter was with Chris Walsh at one point in this event, and he's gotten himself now a little bit further behind. Walsh out to a 7-second lead, but despite the opening lap contact, Bailey has moved into runner-up position for now.
Yeah, looks like Christopher Bailey right now showing the pace that he showed in qualifying and just putting up those laps and making the move on Dustin Burkhalter. Now it's going to be interesting to see if Burkhalter has the pace to try and keep up with him, but if he can, does he go for the move, or does he hold back a bit until the first round of pit stops to try and, I guess, save some fuel, just put in one extra lap of fuel? And, well, that's going to be a question. As you can see now, it looks like Charlie Bass is under pressure from David Levine. No, looks like Charlie Bass got past David Levine on the first section of this lap. So David Levine is still struggling a bit after that mistakes, and Charlie Bass taking absolutely advantage of it as he now heads into the, into the hunt for Tyler Langenberg.
And I'll give credit where credit is due. Was just touching base with our producer on the night, Andrew Cardinale IV, and he cited the fact that watching David Levine struggle a little bit with the handle in that car could have to do with fuel burning off, and now starting to have some trouble with the way in which that car is handling. And since it is going to continue to burn off here, as we can expect, with Bass up alongside of Langenberg, Levine trying to close as they come on the exit of the corner, we can expect these drivers to have their hands full for a little bit longer here, as we are a ways away from the pit window opening as Langenberg squirts his way back by as they approach the Le Mans corner here. The Ulm Straight's going to be a lot of fun when they get back to the power, because this 3-car fight is raging.
Looks like Charlie Bass is full of confidence, just absolutely throwing the car on each and every single corner, trying to get past Tyler Langenberg, but he's having absolutely none of it. As you can see now, David Levine looks like he's getting an absolutely big slipstream as he's going to be looking on the inside for Sunset Bend. Is he going to be committing to the move? Only Hamilton looks like he breaks a bit early. Oh no! Oh, looks like Charlie Bass got into the back end of Tyler Langenberg, and Tyler looks like he held in the car. He's pointing in the right direction. Jason Leach goes by him with his second close call on Sunset Bend. Jason Leach is absolutely threading the needle on that corner.
Yeah, and here comes David Levine and Charlie Bass battling now for that spot. Ooh, Levine appears to not be happy. Keep in mind, David Levine and Tyler Langenberg are teammates, and Levine watched that all go down, and he filled up the mirror of Charlie Bass there. Gave him a little bit of trepidation going through turn 2, but no contact was made, and Bass is now up in the 5th, and let's see what happened. We'll go back and have a look after this racing for 5th spot went bad. Miraculous save, though, by Tyler Langenberg to be able to catch this car without it getting too far askew, as again, this was for the 5th spot. And here comes Bass about to tap the back bumper.
Looks like Charlie Bass just got up. Oh, yeah, looks like the BMW of Tyler Langenberg unfortunately was losing already on the bumps, and looks like Charlie Bass just gave it the final touch, and as you can see, just Jason Leach absolutely just trading paints with Tyler Langenberg. The second time he did that with a BMW on Sunset Bend, so he's definitely counting his cards on that corner. And as you can see now, the onboard of Tyler Langenberg, you're going to see exactly if that back end is kind of stepping out over the bumps. As Eric mentioned, if you just go a bit off the line, as you can see, yeah, the BMW looks like it was bouncing a bit too much, and Charlie Bass just came in with that final kiss, but what a save from Tyler.
Yeah, great job by Langenberg to only lose a couple of spots after that semi-spin there through Sunset Bend. And that charge, though, still from 23rd on the grid, or last on the grid, to move all the way up was rather impressive. Let's go here from the nose of Charlie Bass' car. This was en route to him being able to move on up and crack the top 5 as they come through the corner. And you see there, that 91 did start skating a little bit. Bass tried to get up and avoid, but unfortunately, Langenberg just continued to slide sideways, and around he went. Bass was able to get through without being swept up and involved. Levine followed, And we continue to have a lot of these wow moments in the early stages of this race, and the trend continues. And this battle, though, has not seemed to have dissipated all that much, as we see Christopher Bailey just lost the spot. In fact, Bailey's back to fourth. Wonder what happened to him in the runner-up position. Oh, he's in the pit lane. Bailey now coming down for service. He's going to take tires, it looks like. And remember, he may have sustained some damage in the opening lap, so it's going to be a call on his end if he wants to spend the time to try to get that repaired. But Bailey is the first car towards the front that we see on the pit lane here with just over an hour and a half to go.
Let's remember that it's likely that these guys are going to be doing 2 stops, so this could be an early stop to try and get some free air and try and get the car repaired as fast as possible, and hopefully those two can... So as we heard from Andrew, we do have a bit of a change up on this event, so we're not sure what happened to Christopher. We could see some different, because as we have a different rule here tonight, we do have a 75% fuel limit on these cars. So we've heard, oh, it looks like we do have a BMW spinning. So these fuels should last for over an hour on these cars. So this is definitely not something that should be happening, especially with our second place finisher, our second place starter of Christopher Bailey. So this is definitely odds to be seeing someone pitting this early on the race.
Yeah, very bizarre to see Christopher Bailey on the pit lane now as Brock Hogan, who was at the time the highest running beneficiary. This is coming into the hairpin and bang, gets a big hit from behind. And again, Hunter Reeve is able to navigate his way through an incident. That time it involved 2 of his fellow beneficiary drivers, and I can't with this guy. It's incredible. Every time something happens in front of him, he finds his way through with ease. Let's go on board with him and see how he did it again. This is what, the 3rd time in the last 2 weeks he's been able to avoid trouble? This is remarkable.
I'm not sure how he does it, but he just pulls out every single time and does it. As you can see, looks like Theo just unfortunately just lost the breaking point, and Hunter is just saying thank you very much. I'm gonna move up those 2 spots, and away I go. Just absolutely fantastic, just racecraft, just seeing that incident happening. But looks like we do have some incident happening, and that's Theo Brosma unfortunately lost, it looks like, on the exit of Le Mans. So that's going to be something, that's a heartbreak essentially for this race.
Yeah, Brolsema, keep in mind, 2nd in points, the only other beneficiary driver to capture a flag this season. That was back at Road America. Remember, this is right after the incident. Trying to stay within the lockstep formation of Brock Hogan, coming off of the Maz corner, and around it goes, and hard into the tire wall. You see the obvious damage there to the back end of the car as it spun into that tire wall. But for Brolsema, his chances of being able to leapfrog Hunter Reeve in the beneficiary points has just taken a massive hit, especially with Hunter Reeve now being out in front of the beneficiary field for now.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, an odd mistake from Theo. That's going to cost him quite dearly, essentially. As you can see, he does luckily have a fast repair, but obviously that's a lot of time loss, and that could be, that could dent his confidence going through Le Mans, as we just saw, just dipping a wheel. Just that small mistake can cost you a lot on this racetrack. So that's definitely something to keep an eye out for, as we do have Jason Leach as well on pit stops. So that's quite interesting to see some of these drivers on the pit stops. We currently are looking at our leader, Chris Walsh, and right now it's going through turn 15. Looks like he has this race essentially on the back, over 10-second lead over Dustin Burkhalter in 2nd, who again has a nearly 13-second lead over our P3.
It also seemed like something may have happened to Tyler Langenberg. I saw that car bounce into the pit area while probably taking a tow. He's currently scored 1 lap down after we marveled the fact that he ended up going all the way up through the pack to be up towards the front. We did see him have that semi-spin, but he remained in the top 10. Here's Langenberg. He's still on the racetrack, but he's mired back in the 20th position, 1 lap down. So Langenberg now running back towards where he started, which is a heartbreaker because his avoidance of the opening lap carnage was something to marvel. And now he's going to have to hit the reset button here as we approach the quarter distance mark in this 2-hour event, with Chris Walsh, the pro driver, out in front doing exactly as he did 1 week ago at Mid-Ohio, currently walking away from the field. Dustin Burkhalter runs in 2nd spot. Remember, he was 2nd in points, while Brandon Egerchek appears to is not going to come down and finish this race since the lap 1 crash. He's 23rd, and I've not seen that car out there, so the points for the pros may take a pretty mighty swing. I'm going to have to break out the calculator here and try to figure this one out. But Burkhalter solidly in second, not only in the overall, but the pros as well. Thomas Outson, the highest running open driver, in third. And right now, Hunter Reeve in a familiar spot, P1 for the beneficiaries, and sixth on the overall.
Yeah, looks like we're still going to have a lot of shakeup in those standings. I definitely feel like we're going to be seeing some drivers still moving around those standings. As you can see now, the BMW of John Winker just absolutely bouncing on Sunset Hill. That corner just looks challenging every single lap, you know, just can't get around it. As we cut back, looks like to our leader, that's Charlie Bass, 94, still trying to chase down David Levine. And those two looks like are going to be set off for a race-long battle because those two can't seem to get away from each other.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch these drivers kind of get locked together and trade spots a couple of times here. And how about David Levine? He's having a great run here tonight in the fourth spot. A pro driver. He's currently third of the pros so far. One spot shy of the podium in the overall, but he's been running very well. Remember, this is despite the fact that he spun at one point in this race. Not really by virtue of pit strategy. Hasn't cycled his way to the front. He's straight up driven his way into this fourth position. And he's holding off drivers who have a couple of wins already this season, one of which being that of Charlie Bass. So keep that in mind here as this race unfolds, because David Levine is taking a liking to this track, and it's showing in a big way as he continues to hold off Charlie Bass for the time being. Levine is just having a spectacular run here, and I bet he may not be done climbing up the pylon just yet. Yeah, and also we talk about David Levine and how successful he's been. This is a guy who comes from, the Michelin Pilot Challenge, the series that became the Michelin Pilot Challenge, and that's where these cars are pretty much represented. So he's obviously got experience in these vehicles, the Sebring International Raceway as well, and it's showing that that real-life effort that he put in on that side of his racing career is now translating over to his pro drive today, where he is third in class and fourth in the overall. And he's also, I understand, races in Miata as well. So a spectacular job so far here by David Levine, and he's still got about 75% distance in this race left to go to stay up towards the front. But he's fending off a driver who we talk about every week as being incredibly quick, and Levine may not be done yet. He's trying to close up on a Thomas Outson, who is just up the road a ways in third.
Yeah, looks like David Levine came out of that bubble that we saw, that we talked about earlier before, just making small mistakes here and there, but looks like he got it under control. Just as I mentioned that he unfortunately misses the apex on the hairpin, and Charlie Bass can get a little bit closer, but, just showing that pro class, just making a mistake and quickly bouncing back from it, just putting again those faster lap times, and those two looks like they're not going to be going away anytime soon, because as soon as Charlie Bass can get himself back in the game, he's all the way back in David Levine's rear bumper, and it looks like he's just going to be applying pressure all over again.
Now we're on board with Caleb Belden, who was currently third in the beneficiary running order, eighth in the overall, and Caleb was pretty open about his chances here tonight, and he was actually highlighted the fact that he's someone that we talk about rather often on the broadcast, and what an incredible person who is representing the Resilience Racing effort. We talked to him and John Winker a little bit earlier, former U.S. Marine Corps veteran from 2009 to 2018. And we mentioned the fact that he got involved with motorsports back when he was just 16 years old and competed in SCCA regional competitions in what was then the Formula Continental class. Currently a driver and board member, as we mentioned, for the Resilience Racing Foundation. For more information, visit resilienceracingfoundation.org. To learn more about what they're involved in. And he is just someone who loves the fact that this league is a way that he can share his passion for motorsports with his fellow veterans and also those who support them. And that probably opens up the best transition to thank some of those who do support this series, with the first of them being, in fact, RECARO. And RECARO Automotive is all about making driving safer, more comfortable, and more controlled. That is proven here in this series for a driving experience that you could really feel. RECARO Automotive puts people first every time, and they are a proud partner of Operation eMotorsports and the Operation eMotorsports League that we are presenting to you here on Pit Stop TV. We also want to shout shout out Mobile One for their long time and standing involvement in Operation Motorsports and this Operation eMotorsport series. So thank you to both RECARO and Mobile One for all that they do to help us present this 8-race slate of Winter League racing action here for this series. It has been a remarkable and incredible ride, and we are not done yet, as we have just eclipsed the quarter distance mark in this 2-hour season finale with a lot of storylines developing across all 3 of our classes as the racing continues here for this 4th spot, with Charlie Bass trying to close up on David Levine, and they are catching Thomas Outson at a blistering pace. That margin was about 7 to 8 seconds 2 laps ago. They've cut it down now to what looks to be less than 6 seconds. So Outson is starting to fall back into the clutches of Levine and Bass, and we're about to have a race for that final spot on the podium here shortly.
Yeah, exactly. That was a point I was just going to touch. Looks like Thomas Outson is just losing, I guess, around 6-7 tenths of a second per lap. And that's with David Levine getting pressure from behind from Charlie Bass. So David Levine just absolutely putting up those lap times that he needs to try to get Thomas Outson. And obviously, if he does pass Thomas, he's going to have a buffer between himself and Charlie, which is definitely going to help him to try and get some breathing air in the near future, because those two looks like they're going to be on the bumper of Thomas in around, I'm going to bet, around 7 laps time. So Thomas definitely under pressure right now, seeing that gap coming ever so slightly closer. And it's going to be very interesting for both drivers to see how well they pass, essentially, Thomas when they get there.
Yeah, now we're going to drop back here and ride on board with Trevor Hill, who was trying to get around what looks to be Justin Jarrett for a position up in the top 10. Remember, Trevor Hill was involved in that Turn 1, Lap 1 incident that happened after bouncing off the side of Christopher Bailey. As Jarrett overdrives the exit of the Lamaze corner, Trevor Hill is going to pounce. Jarrett's going to give way there on driver's left, and there goes Trevor Hill back up into the 9th spot, kicking Jarrett back to 10th. But keep in mind, Jarrett's still running about 4th in class, and this top 10 effort is very good for Justin Jarrett, who's running up here, overcooks the corner as we got a car in the pit lane here. We're going to flash up and see that's Charlie Bass, who was threatening for that 3rd spot. He is on the pit lane here getting service, and he may not be alone. This may be a popular time for some of these cars to come down the pit lane, and we'll see how this all unfolds with Bass being in for service. And here comes Jarrett and Hill flashing by to continue their battle on the main straightaway for what is now a fight for 8th.
Yeah, looks like some of these drivers are going to be jumping up a few positions. The standings are going to get a bit confusing with the pit stop cycle, because it looks like Charlie just came in for a scheduled pit stop, I'd say, because he didn't have any damage on his car. But looks like Justin Jarrett, unfortunately, making a few mistakes here right behind Trevor Hill, and unfortunately doesn't seem to be having the pace to catch up and keep up with him at the moment. But he's still on a very, very nice position in P10, as we do have another battle up on the racetrack. It looks like we do have Callum Belden trying to catch Brock Hogan ahead of him, and those two seems again to be catch up with a class inside battle.
Yeah, for Callum Belden, this is a spectacular run. And keep in mind, these drivers are not only running towards the front of the beneficiary, we're talking about the fact that they are in the top 10 of the overall, and they're creeping their way up towards the top 5, which means they are in turn creeping their way up towards a potential podium spot. It's one thing to be best in class, it's another to be in the same league as some of these pro drivers who have put off ridiculous results throughout the season. These beneficiaries have done that as well, and right now they are having an incredible night as they make up. In fact, beneficiaries populate more positions in the top 10 right now than any other class. They've got half of it, as you got Hunter Reeve in 5th, Brock Hogan, who is right now under fire from Belden. They're 6th and 7th. Then you got Justin Jarrett 9th and John Winker rounding out your top 10 right now. Still a long way to go, but these drivers are putting on an incredible show, and it seems like it's just that level of precision, trying to make sure they hit their marks each and every lap, try to stay out of trouble if and when possible, and that's what's paying big dividends for our beneficiary class here tonight.
Yeah, exactly. All those drivers putting in excellent lap times, and not only that, they're obviously just minimizing the mistakes all throughout the field. They're just just putting up those lap times. As look like we do have another driver. Looks like Brock Hogan now is on the pits. So we're seeing some drivers cycle in the pits right now. So this could be a bit of an interesting time to keep an eye out for, because David Levine and Thomas Outson, both of them stayed out. So it's definitely gonna be interesting to see the strategies that some of the drivers that pitted early, just like Brock Hogan, are gonna be developing throughout the race.
Yeah, if we're going to be keeping our eye on that, and I'm trying to think if we go back to the highest running driver that pitted already, and I think it might be that of Charlie Bass, who runs 11th. Also keep in mind the fact that Christopher Bailey came down, but I believe he got repairs, so he's a little bit further back in the running order, 14th, and currently the last car on the lead lap. But how about Trevor Hill? Open driver now is second in the open rankings as they run. Hill, who's had an up and down day. You see, he started 5th. That was his high, but going down to turn number 1, if you're just joining us, we kicked this race off in spectacular fashion. Hill and Christopher Bailey made contact for what would be the lead in the open rankings. Turn 1, lap 1. That sent Bailey up on 2 wheels momentarily. Hill was able to continue on, but the rest of the field piled in behind as they started spinning and wrecking, and that's what, right off the bat, topped over what was the initial running order when we came to green. It jumbled up the field, and ever since, it's been hard to imagine that we are only about 40 minutes into this 2-hour event, and that things have shuffled in such a capacity that they have. As we continue on with pit stops, Jay Gleason in for service here with 1 hour, 22 minutes left to go, and these are going to be storylines that we follow as we now move up on Theo Brolsema, who's been involved in one incident earlier. He's trying to make his way back up towards the front of the pack, and Brolsema is on a bit of an outlap here, we hear, after coming in for his stop. He's currently scored in 17th spot, and we're a long ways from getting a true feel on how this field is going to set once the pit strategy is all said and done, as we are 20 minutes shy of halfway.
Yes, exactly. It's kind of difficult to see, to kind of actually imagine what's happening, but looks like we do have a few BMWs that came into the pit, so we could be seeing a bit of a higher consumption on the BMWs. It's definitely difficult to tell this early on, but you know, these drivers are definitely going to be putting up an interesting strategy game for later on in the race, because as we heard, we do have 75% fuel limit on these cars, and that fuel can last over an hour. So those drivers that pitted right now are definitely going to have to be pitting again before the end of the race.
Yeah, unique strategies that are starting to play out all throughout this pack, but so far nobody has had anything for that of Chris Walsh, who is out to a huge advantage over the rest of the pack. And here's a look at Walsh, who is someone who has done a lot for us here on the platform. But if we look back to last week at Mid-Ohio, we had a chance to talk to Chris Walsh in Victory Lane. You know, you love when he's able to strap into the car and compete. You also love when you have a chance to hear from him when he's on the call of some of these races. But I will tell you, after the whooping he put on the field 1 week ago, I'm pretty sure that the rest of the field may have breathed out, albeit a silent sigh, knowing that he was so dominant and so superior, and he has thus far backed up that performance here with a lead up to about 24 plus seconds. It is insane how far up the running order that Walsh is, and we are not even at halfway in this event just yet.
Yeah, exactly. Chris just doing absolutely everything that he needs to do and more, I guess, because it's just lap time after lap time after lap time. You know, he's just putting up such fast lap times in such a consistency. It's just unbelievable, you know, seeing someone do this. I guess we kind of need a BOP just for Chris to be able to make this any easier on some of those drivers, because this is just unbelievable. You know, he's just showing, I guess, just how you can extract the most out of this car each and every single lap, you know, just running over those curbs in such a smooth way. The car just looks so controlled. Each and every single corner is just, I guess, a sight to see. You know, it's just so beautiful to see someone driving that car just so planted on the racetrack.
And complacency in a race car could oftentimes be a dangerous thing. And when you settle into a rhythm and you're doing the same thing for the same amount of time, it can sometimes lull you into a false sense of security where maybe you're not able to keep up with the changing handling conditions on that car. As we touched on earlier, after Andrew Cardinale IV pointed out to us the fact that these cars are very sensitive to the burning off of the fuel load on that car, and that transfer and weight distribution really does kind of throw things into for a loop, especially in the Porsches. So that's something to consider as this race goes on. So if you're Walsh and you're somebody who's able to hit their marks all throughout this event, as we look at Dustin Burkhalter, who's, even though a ways back, having a very solid run and what could in fact turn into a championship effort when all said and done here tonight for the pros. But when you're considering that element of precision and perfection, it is very easy to be lulled into a point in this race where you could think you have it under control, and it all suddenly comes undone with the slightest of mistakes. And Walsh is going to try to do all that he can to make sure that he is not put into that position before this race ends. More stops underway. It's Justin Jarrett as the next car to come to the pit lane.
So it looks like the pit cycle might be starting from some of these drivers. Obviously, they could just be avoiding traffic ahead of them. So this could be very, very interesting to see on the next few laps how this is going to develop, because we're seeing I guess such a diverse amount of cars just come into pit lane all throughout different positions on the racetrack. So it's kind of hard to judge this early on what exactly they're thinking, as we do have some other battles raging on the racetrack, as we do have the BMW of looks like I'm sorry, that looks like Thomas Downson. Yeah, it looks like he just came over Le Mans corner on turn 15, and he's just just trying to put his lap times, as we do have a few other battles. Looks like Callum Belden is trying to catch up the driver ahead of him, another Porsche of Hunter Reeve. No, sorry, that looks like a Trevor Hill. So Trevor Hill looks like got past Callum Belden on this lap, because they were just fixed, as we're going to see now on our Pit Stop TV replay.
Yeah, we're going to go back, take a look at what happened here, and once that replay is up, we'll have a look at it. This is Callum Belden, and as we mentioned, it looks like he's got Trevor Hill coming in just behind him. This is approaching the hairpin, it looks like, at the end of turn number 7. Hill was close, trying to brake. Belden runs high, gets back to the power here. Hill all over the backside of him, looking for an avenue to get by. And this race would continue on for this spot. Hill up alongside. This is some great racing here up to this point, with Belden now trying to have the preferred line, and Hill's going to outbrake him coming into the corner. Belden overcooked the corner a little bit there and ran up the racetrack. And this is the same spot where David Levine had his problems earlier. Belden slots in a position. We'll continue to follow in the tire tracks as we see now Tim Bernard. This is where his problem happened, behind these two, as he had his incident off the corner.
As we do have this racetrack again catching up a few drivers. Looks like Tim Bernard just lost it on power. Looks like he just spun up those rear wheels on that BMW, and unfortunately for him, met the wall on a kind of a, I guess not as harsh to make it to cause enough damage to force a pit stop, but definitely not light enough to get away with it completely. So that's unfortunately for Tim, but definitely going to be bouncing back. We saw this, as you can see now, looks like on the exit of turn 6, he just gets on the power nicely. He's going to be going over the Fangio straight, as between turns 8 and 9, I'm pretty sure. He's just going to be going over that corner just absolutely nice and settled. He's going to be braking for turn number 10, and looks like it's all settled and done, but looks like on the rear, and no, the car just snaps mid-corner. So downshifted maybe too quickly, maybe just a little extra engine braking caused that rear end just to spin out, and unfortunately for him, he just lost a heap amount of time, but luckily, not a lot of damage.
So, as you can see, everybody is having to endure the wrath of the Sebring International Raceway so far here tonight, all except for our leader right now, Chris Walsh. Dustin Burkhalter's also not that far behind, on board with Charlie Bass, who is trying to continue his charge up further forward after he already came down the pit lane. He's going to get up and through John Winker here for the time being, as we are 15 minutes shy from halfway here for the season finale of the Operation eMotorsport Winter League. We're going to step aside just for a moment. We'll be back after a brief message and these messages.
Operation Motorstarts helped me get me away from home, I guess you can say. I'm at home doing nothing because of my medical stuff. Besides the basic brake changing, oil changing, tire rotation. I've actually learned how to assemble and disassemble some engine parts, change some axles, do some alignments and stuff. So give it a try. You never know. This was nothing that I expected. I did not expect to be fully suited, jumping over a wall while cars are going 100 and something miles an hour. It's more than working on cars. For one, you're building friendships, you're meeting new people. And if working on cars is not your thing, Operation Motorsports has other things that you can do. Something, it's not just, I'm going to go out there and turn a wrench on a wheel.
On average, 22 veterans from North America commit suicide every single day. That's one veteran for every second of this video.
I found out about Operation Motorsports through the program I'm in with the military. They're helping me transition into the civilian life, and this was a great way for me to take my passion and see what it's like on the high performance side. I'm here to pick up what I can learn from them so that I can use it with my future career as being an automotive mechanic. This is a great experience whether you're just a at-home kind of person working on your car, changing oils or stuff like that, or wanting to go into the high performance side. I'm loving how the team's taking me in and really showing me everything. It'll show you just about everything you need to know from the driver standpoint to the tire changing.
I'm working on the Porsche GT3 with Park Racing and Volt Racing. I got a phone call from the USO Pathfinder group, and they kind of informed me, and all I heard was cars, Lambos, Porsches, and I was like, yep, good to go. The opportunity that you get just to be able to come out here and actually see these kind of cars, work with teams on hand, and learn. They don't just say, well, get out of my way and move, and I'll do it. They know. They teach you. That's the favorite part right there.
About 11 minutes shy of the halfway mark of the season finale for Operation eMotorsport, presented by RECARO here on Pit Stop TV. And we're looking at Chris Walsh because he is fresh off the pit lane after he has come down for his intended service. You now see that he has scored back in the 5th spot, and he was the highest up of the drivers that we've seen come down for service thus far. And we'll see if he's going to be able to stay out on the racetrack to the end. We think this is a little bit early as far as when the pit window should be open. We're thinking about 3 minutes from now would be the delta time that we could expect these drivers to maybe make it to the end with ease. But it'll be interesting to see if Walsh does, in fact, stretch it to the end and what type of work he will have to do in the cockpit of that car to make that possible. But it'll give Burkhalter the lead. Outson second. Levine now third. Here's Belden, who we were following a little bit earlier. Taking a look at him for the time being. 12th on the overall is that of Belden. One of the beneficiaries has been having a great run here tonight, but we're starting to see pit strategy come into play, JP, and I believe you got more stops underway with some of the front runners as well as the lads continue to click off and we near halfway.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like David Levine and Thomas Zoutsen both find themselves on pit lane, so that's kind of interesting. But obviously, Dustin Burkhalter, if you see on our timing board, alleged to stay out, so he's going to be leading a few laps. He's going to get a few of those numbers up on his board, but really interesting to see the mileage on that Porsche, as we do still have both cars. Looks like they're both taking tires, because remember, we do have a longer race, so it might be interesting for some of these drivers to take the tires, take the extra amount of time stopped on a pit lane to try and get the fresh rubber, to try and get the car just, I guess, obeying more of your commands on the racetrack. So that's definitely going to be something interesting to see.
Yeah, we're looking at Burkhalter, and it's going to be hard for us, for at least for me, because, you know, math is not my best subject, but to try to crunch the numbers on this here. Coming into the night, though, Brandon Egerchek, who was involved in that Turn 1, Lap 1 incident, was the point leader by 23 markers. Burkhalter has been pretty much second spot all night long. He's now being shown the leader. That's considering the fact that he has yet to stop. John Winker, who was in the top 10 at the time of his pit stop, now comes in for service. But there's a lot of elements that go into the way in which these points are awarded. The maximum number of points is 47 per race, but there's a lot of other developments in the formula of how they calculate a driver's points earnings in a respective race. But for right now, Burkhalter, he is at the head of the field, and he's trying to see if the math falls his way, if he would be able to capture top honors for the pros, even if he is not the one who is first for the pros coming across the line for the checkered flag. So something we're going to keep our eye on here as we wind down for the remainder of this event, with Burkhalter still leading, Hunter Reeve up to second, Chris Walsh, as we mentioned, he's pitted already. He's running third right now. We expect him to cycle back to the front at one point in this event once Reeve and Burkhalter pit. And that will get us back to where we've been running, with Walsh being the dominator as Reeve now hits the pit lane.
Yeah, looks like a lot of these guys right now are starting to get into that pit cycle that we mentioned. Probably could be forcing the car to go all the way to the end on this last tank of fuel. This could be very interesting to see some of these drivers that are stopping late. Obviously, Hunter Reeve and Dustin Burkhalter, who's still out on the racetrack. So these two drivers, we're definitely going to have to keep an eye out for, because if Chris has to stop again, he's definitely going to be having to pull out another 25 to 28 seconds on race to try and compensate, to try and knock off that lap time that he will eventually lose on pit lane.
Yeah, so as Reeve comes down for his pit stop, remember, Reeve was the beneficiary point leader. Trevor Hill is now in for service as well. And this is about the point at which we thought we would start to see cars come down to try to make it to the end if they put their fuel setting in the proper place. So Reeve right now is in. Hill is in. As you see, Burkhalter yet to stop. We can expect him to come within the next few laps or so, perhaps. They could stretch it a little bit further, maybe even start to eclipse the halfway point of this event, the way in which the 75% fuel setting is put in place. But for right now, Burkhalter's still out of the racetrack with Walsh second. And how about Charlie Bass? I mean, you want to talk about perfecting the undercut a little bit. Bass was one of the first cars that we saw come down, but JP, I don't know. He came down so early, he may have to stop again at some point in this race. I don't see how he's going to be able to make it all the way to the end with as early as he stopped.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be an interesting point to look out for Charlie, because if he has to stop, he just has to push in qualifying lap times over and over and over again. Obviously, it would be extremely beneficial for him if he just found himself behind another car, as we do now have the leader, Dustin Burkhalter, heading into pit lane. So I'm pretty sure he's the last car to head into the pit lane. So definitely we're going to have to keep an eye out for him. If he can only make one stop on this endurance event, it's going to be extremely beneficial for his race and could probably put him all the way up to the front of the grid at the end of the race. You know, if Chris has to make another stop, he's going to be losing a lot of time, close to, I'm going to say 40 seconds stopped. So it's going to be extremely interesting to see the next few laps, the next hour essentially, how it's going to unveil.
So with this stop, we're going to see Chris Walsh go back to the lead, a spot at which he's familiar with. He's been there many a times before, been there pretty much all day today up until he had made his pit stop. Now we wait to see where Burkhalter was going to blend back up in the line. He was second also before the pit stops began. And we talked about how this night has unfolded, and there's some of the championship implications that are in play. And I think we could actually see how the points were running at the time when we came into this race from Mid-Ohio, because we thought a lot of these championship battles were going to be decided before this race was over. But as you see, Brandon Egerchek, he's going to finish 23rd tonight. Burkhalter was running second before the stops. We expect him to be there when he comes out. So that's going to be very close as far as how things swing. While Hunter Reeve was still atop the beneficiaries, and Chris Bailey has also been running very strong tonight, while Rodney Campbell and Sean Knight have had some problems. So, JP, not all these championship races are decided by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of things can happen tonight. Obviously, I guess the biggest turnaround is Brendan Egerchik. Just unfortunately, the turn one incident might have killed his championship hopes. I'm going to try to crunch in the numbers between my takes, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this Pro Championship will unveil. But obviously, on the beneficiary, Hunter Reeve, you know, after a bad qualifying and 3 avoidances, let's not forget, he finds himself on a perfect way to finish off his championship season, I guess. And Theo, unfortunately for him, not going his way, but still, over an hour to go over a normal race distance. So definitely a lot that can happen.
Yeah, so that was the picture coming into tonight's racing action. And although it may be really difficult for things to be shuffled up towards the top of the pylon, the pro math is going to look very tight when all's said and done when they come home to the checkers a little bit later on here tonight as we inch a little bit closer to halfway. And it's been all about Chris Walsh. And, you know, you have to wonder what this series would have looked like if Walsh elected to run full time. And if we look back on the season opener where Egerchek ended up grabbing the win at Daytona, he went back-to-back between Daytona and Road America, but then Walsh got his first win of the season back at VIR, took some time out of the cockpit, decided to join the Pit Stop TV broadcast booth for a couple of races, and came back out at Mid-Ohio, and as we mentioned, it was just a dominated performance through and through. Only had one close call with lap traffic, but pretty much he just started to gap the field by a large quantity very early in the going and never really put a wheel off. And today has been more of the same, although he used up a lot of curbing that time. But look at that deficit. 44 seconds we're talking about. Back to Charlie Bass. I mean, I'm not sure how many cars are going to be left on the lead lap if Walsh continues this blistering pace, especially if he has made his one and only stop for the day, and it's going to be focused forward here all the way to the checkers for Walsh. It's going to be a long race for sure and a long stint for sure, but he's the one guy who could perfect the art as we drop back to this battle for second on the overall. Bass up ahead, Burkhalter second, lap car ahead. I believe that's Gray that's just up in front, while this race for second rages on.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like this battle, Charlie just perfected the undercut, and looks like Glenn Gray might get in the way a bit. That's going to slow Charlie Bass on the exit of turn 5 as now they head into turn 6. Looks like Glenn Gray still foot flat on the floor. Looks like he's going to be letting both drivers pass him on this small little straight, but looks like that's going to help out a bit on Dustin Burkhalter's side because he's definitely closer than he was as he entered the first section of those corners, and it looks like he's just on the bumper. He's definitely going to be trying to go for that move, but if he's thinking about the championship, this third place on my calculations might be just enough to secure him that first position. So it's all about questioning if it's worth going for the risk of overtaking and risking putting your car into a dangerous position. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what Dustin is going to be thinking about this on this next few laps or next few corners, essentially, as soon as he's stops pressing essentially Charlie Bass.
You saw the level of angst by Charlie Bass that time to try to get around Gray, the lap car. He started flashing the high beams at him relatively quickly there as he felt like he might have gotten held up a little bit, and he retains about a 3-car length advantage ahead of Dustin Burkhalter, who was the longtime second-place runner in this event. He currently holds down the 3rd spot, while Thomas Outzen is a ways behind, followed by David Levine 5th, Christopher Bailey in 6th, after he was the highest-running open driver for a long time running. Outzen now holds that advantage in 4th. Behind Bailey, it's Jason Leach, who's having a great run. Trevor Hill also having a solid run for open drivers in 8th. And Brock Hogan is now the highest running beneficiary in the field ahead of the points leader, Hunter Reeve. Hogan trying to become just the 3rd different winner in the beneficiary rankings as we hit the halfway point here at Sebring for this final race of the season. It's Walsh for the pros, Outzen for the open, and Brock Hogan for the beneficiaries as we have 1 hour to go.
Hogan is absolutely holding his own on his race car. He's definitely putting out excellent lap times as we do cut. Now it looks like to the 58 BMW of Brock Hogan. As you can see, just not that big of a gap to Hunter Reeve. Hunter is definitely going to be pushing to try and get close to Hogan, over nearly 2 seconds quicker on that previous lap. So Hunter is definitely going to be putting some fast lap times to try and catch that BMW. But Brock is doing an absolutely fantastic race. Starting off in P16. Oh, looks like he got a bit loose as they head into sunset, but looks like Rodney Campbell is even closer to his battle. Looks like the 62 is trying to press the 64 of Jay Gleason right ahead of him.
Yeah, and Gleason has had an incredible run so far here. He got caught up in something earlier, and we mentioned Rodney Campbell second in the championship points coming into tonight's race, and he was caught up in that turn 1, lap 1 carnage, and Campbell has continued to stay in the fight, continuing to navigate that BMW around this racetrack, now chasing fellow BMW competitor in Gleason, looking outside to avoid running into the back of Gleason, and actually may have been given that spot there by Gleason as they came off the right-handed corner, and that's going to move Campbell a little bit further up the running order as he continues to try to hold an outside shot and finishing well up in the standings for the open class, while not that far behind comes the battle for second. Bass and Burkhalter still separated by about 3 car lengths as they come through Lamar's corner and setting up for the Ullman Straight. Burkhalter continuing to apply steady pressure in his race for second in the overall.
Yeah, exactly, and this could be playing off perfectly into Dustin's hand, because if he can just stay behind Charlie, he can save a lot of fuel, because Charlie looks like he has the pace to keep up, I guess, a decent size, just losing a few tenths of a second from Chris every single lap. So if Dustin can just keep himself behind Charlie and just save fuel lap after lap, he's definitely going to be increasing his chances to make one last pit stop by the end of the race. That's obviously considered if everybody has to make 2. He's definitely on a prime position, not only to make one last pit stop, but if he does that, challenging Chris for the overall victory.
And as you see, Brian Winker is one of the open drivers we've not talked about all that much here tonight. Currently scored 3 laps down at about the 21st spot, but that BMW is on the pit lane here, is that of Winker. And he's currently in for service. And judging by the pit window, this may be a scheduled stop for him, hopefully to try to make it for the rest of the way. Winker, though, it's still a long way to go, and attrition perhaps still going to play a bit of a role in how the results fare. Could climb his way further up the running order before all is said and done, as we drop back down to Burkhalter, who's losing a bit of touch here to the driver up ahead in Charlie Bass for that battle for second. Thomas Outson is a ways back. That is a left car that is behind Burkhalter as they come through the hairpin. And it's Outson and Levine a little bit further down the order. Levine is actually starting to catch Outson, it seems, for that 4th spot.
Yeah, looks like Levine, obviously, he was running close to Charlie Bass at one point in this racetrack, running ahead of Charlie, essentially. But unfortunately, it looks like he just caught up in probably a bad pit cycle. Unfortunately, got held up in traffic. But he's definitely be putting up some laps and catching Thomas on a rapid pace. So we could be seeing a battle forming up on the next few laps, as you do have on your screen right now. Both drivers, this is Thomas Zoutsen, as he heads, looks like through turns, I'm going to say turn 10. No, sorry, that's turn 13. So he's coming up on the end of the lap, definitely trying to hold his zone against David, but David's on a charge. It's going to be hard to keep him behind as soon as he gets close.
Yeah, we touched on it earlier. David, who has a lot of experience, not just in a sim, but in a real-life setting as well, and cars that pretty much emulate what this series is all about. As you see, Gray having a problem there. Glenn Gray, one of the open competitors that looked like it was Lamar's corner, and a bad night continues. We saw Glenn Gray go around earlier tonight and make light contact with the Armco barrier. This time, he dips the right side wheels, or I should say the left side wheels off of the grass. Caught some damage there by hopping over the curb on the front end, it looked like, after hitting those curbs at Lamar Corner. And that's one of the sectors of the racetrack where, even though it's paved a bit, it could still cause a significant problem if you were to have a misstep. And that's exactly what happened to Glenn Gray here after dipping the driver's side wheels or the left side wheels off into the grass enough to pitch that car sideways.
Yeah, exactly. Just shows how sensitive some of these cars are with the damage model. As you can see, just dipping a wheel under braking, that's just unfortunate for him. You know, just a small fraction of the rubber just put up against the grass, that's enough to make these cars spin. And as you mentioned, even though it's a relatively flat and paved surface, it can still cause some damage, as the battle for second looks like it still rages on. Now it looks like it's closer than ever as they both head into turn 7, the hairpin, and it looks like Dustin might be just fuel saving, might just be biding his time, because Charlie pitted it so early. He's definitely going to be looking to pit, I guess, within the next 20 minutes. So, you know, Dustin might just have to bide his time right now.
Yeah, no sense in trying to force the issue if you're Burkhalter, although, you know, I'm not necessarily sure how privy these drivers are to eat one another's fuel strategy throughout the event. Obviously, if they have somebody on the radio with them, they can kind of keep them in tune as to where their competition decided to pit, and I don't see any way in which Bass is going to be able to make it to the end. So, and honestly, with such a large gap to try to catch up to Chris Walsh, it doesn't make sense to try to rush this move and perhaps put him and Bass in a precarious position, especially considering the fact that Outson has not closed up on these two just yet. Now, we were talking about David Levine. It looks like he lost the spot to Chris Bailey, who is on a bit of a charge. Here you see these two. And Levine is someone who's had a lot of pace here tonight, but Bailey, we saw him also pit very early, so we can expect to see Bailey back on the pit lane. But I think the key storyline to follow with Bailey is, after that turn 1, lap 1 contact, he may have spent a little bit of extra time in the pit area to get some service, and that may allow him an opportunity to have a much better handling car throughout the midway sector of this race. Now, we mentioned Bailey getting by David Levine. Let's see how he did it here.
Looks like that's through the first part of the racetrack. That's through turns 3, 4, and 5, as now they head into turn 6, the mini straight. Are we gonna see a dive bomb from Christopher Bailey? He looks like he's a bit further back. Looks like David Levine doesn't put up any charge, and no, looks like maybe David Levine just missed the apex. yeah, just got a bit too wide, cut back in. No, looks like it's going to be on the next corner. I'm mistaken, but looks like Christopher just got an excellent run out of the hairpin, as now they head into turns 8 and 9. Is he going to be looking over the inside or the outside? Looks like David Levine is not going to make that difficult, and yep, that's how Christopher Bailey got him on the inside line of turn 10. Just got him, absolutely clean move, and away he goes. So now David Levine has to use this opportunity to try and keep up with his pace and hope to catch Thomas Outson at the next few laps.
Yeah, now that Bailey made the pass, you can just kind of like latch on and catch him as far as you can. Maybe learn something from a little bit, because Bailey's had a lot of pace this season, it seems, maybe en route to a championship for the open rankings. And we go on board here with Dustin Burkhalter, who's trying to reel in Charlie Bass up ahead. And this is actually going to be Burkhalter finding a way around Charlie Bass cars. They came through the final turn at Sunset Bend, and there you see how easy it is to overdrive that final turn. Bass got way up out of the groove, nearly got into the wall. You're on board with Bass real quick as Burkhalter comes flashing by on the bottom. Bass kept it out of the tire barrier, but he lost second place in the process by virtue of that mistake through Sunset Bend.
And just showing that the pressure can get to even the pro drivers, because Charlie Bass was just running his race, absolutely no mistakes throughout the race, and unfortunately for him, just went a bit too deep on Sunset Bend. As you can see now, the bumps just, as soon as he got offline, it looks like the marbles might have played a major factor on that lack of grip, and Dustin Burkhalter just took the racing line and away he went. And now he finds himself again in second place, and looks like he already has put a decent amount of gap on Charlie Bass, so might just be showing out his cards right now as the battle still rages on between Thomas Outson, and looks like Christopher Bailey got ahead of Thomas Outson on this lap. So Chris Bailey on absolutely attack mode at the current time, and looks like now Thomas Outson is going to be under pressure from David Levine, who is just a bit further back.
Saw a little puff of smoke there. Somebody's had a problem at Sunset Bend yet again. That might be, was that Tim Bernard perhaps? We'll try to get a positive idea on that car. It was. Bernard had a semi-spin there coming through that portion of the racetrack. So as the race starts to wind down here, we're starting to see this final corner jump out and grab some of the best in the business and also some of the beneficiaries as well. Bernard, high entry, slide, step in, gets it around. Fortunately, just missed that tire wall before the wall jets out a little bit further. And he got that car stopped before rolling down into the middle of the groove. And look at that heads-up move by Bernard. Instead of trying to drive forward and rejoin the pack by coming across the racing groove, he backed it up a little bit. So that way he would ensure that he would not impact any oncoming traffic. That's a heads-up move by Bernard to not make that incident a much bigger problem after the slight mistake in the corner.
Yeah, exactly. Big heads up from each and every single one of these drivers. Looks like we do have the onboard of Christopher Bailey as his move on Thomas Outson. Looks like that's on the same corner, turn 10. He just gets close. He's going to be on turn 13. Looks like he's going to be getting a good exit out of these corners, just using a lot of that curb on the inside. That's definitely interesting as they head into 12 and 13. No, looks like it's not going to be here, but looks like he's just going to be lining himself up on that small straight between turns 13 and 14, and well, looks like he's going to be doing an on Le Mans by the current looks of things. He just gets a great run, a great toe on slipstream. No, looks like Thomas Outson just thinks better of it and just releases Christopher Bailey on his charge. So is that a smart move? I'd say it is, just not fighting as hard, trying to conserve your car, because he's running on an excellent P5 spot at the moment in time. So he definitely has a lot. Looks like David Levine made another mistake here, so he's going to be losing a lot of time. That's going to give Thomas Outson some breathing room on the next few laps.
Oh, and problems here for David Levine, as we saw, who just had that incident. We'll go back and see how it happened, but Levine, well, as we mentioned, been pretty much running up towards the front of the field all day long. He did spin at one point in this race. As you can see, nobody behind. That car starts to bounce a little bit. We talked about the changing conditions, especially in the Porsches, when the fuel load starts to burn off. He was a hop, skip, and a jump there. Now setting up here for this part of the racetrack at Le Mans corner. It comes down under the binders here. Oh, that car's already spinning. Right on corner entry at the first sector of Le Mans corner. Right at turn 15. The back end stepped around. Almost drove out in front of traffic. Patiently waited for a hole. And then got on the gas quick. May have lost 2 spots in the process. But that's the second time tonight that David Levine has gone backwards. And this one is going to cost him an opportunity to continue to fight for a top 5 position, at least for now.
Yeah, exactly. And not mistake again from David, as now Charlie Baz just proving our point, coming again down into pit road. So he's definitely going to be fueling up the car now. Is he going to be taking tires? I'd say more than likely he definitely has to be. Yeah, he's on the jack, so he's definitely taking tires. He's definitely going to be on attack mode for this final 48 minutes of this racetrack. So it's going to be interesting to see. You know, Charlie has proven that he had pace even with worn tires. So right now with new tires, he's definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with for the rest of the grid. As long as he can just put in those lap times, he definitely can find himself on a promising position by the end of the race.
Yeah, and of course, with the just as things work in this TV deal, as soon as I say David Levine can't contest for a top 5 spot for now, we see Charlie Bass pit. That puts David Levine back up in a top 5 position. So I certainly know what I'm talking about. But how about Chris Walsh in this performance he's putting on? That he's going to go around Caleb Bellman here to put him a lap down at the exit of turn number 1. That lead now up to 52 seconds. And I believe Walsh and Burkhalter can make it to the end. I do not think the same for the current open leader in Christopher Bailey. He came down very early. I would almost expect him to be on the pit lane kind of shortly, perhaps, judging by the way they fueled that car up. And he's coming down the Ullman straight, but he too was on the pit lane very early. We thought it was perhaps to repair some damage he may have sustained in the opening lap. But I think Thomas Outson may be sitting in a bit of a catbird seat here. But even his pit strategy was a little bit later than what we thought would be the time to make it to the finish. So we'll see when Bailey has to come down for service. Right now, it's going to be right now. So Bailey, third on the overall, leader in the open, coming to pit lane here with 47 minutes to go.
So this is definitely going to be interesting to see the lap times that they obviously are going to be putting now, because I'm sure Christopher Bailey is going to be putting new tires again, and we saw how fast he was on the previous stint. As we do have John Winker as well on pit lane. Looks like he just got his service done. As you can see just how bumpy it is on pit lane. That BMW just bouncing around as he heads back into the racetrack. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how Christopher Bailey is going to be attacking not only the track but some of the drivers on this final 46 minutes now of the race. Definitely going to be interesting. But I'm going to bet against you, Eric. I do think Chris is going to be pitting again, but with the gap that he has over Dusty, I'm not pretty sure if it's going to matter anyway, because it looks like he just has an absolutely mammoth of a gap. He might pit and just come out in first place again.
Yeah, we still got 46 minutes left to see how this is going to all play out here for the season finale for Operation eMotorsport at the Sebring International Raceway. On board now with Charlie Bass, who got his service done, and as things cycle out, he's currently 9th in the running order, so it's going to be fun to watch Charlie work his way back up through the pack. As you see it just in front of him, it appears that may be Brock Hogan, who is not too far further ahead. It's actually Hazlitt who's in front of him. Hogan is 2 cars ahead in a race 4 position. Hogan now 2nd for the beneficiaries, 8th on the overall. Hunter Reeve holding down the beneficiary lead, as Bass had a really close call with Hazlitt there at the exit of the turn. Going to be able to get clear and now set his sights on the 8th spot in this event. That's Hunter Reeve just up ahead underneath the Mobile One bridge.
Looks like Charlie's definitely going to be putting up an attack mode to try and get back to Brock Hogan. As you can see, the gap is now below 2 seconds, just 1.99 seconds. So this is going to be interesting to see how much. Obviously, let's remember Charlie's going to be on newer tires, so he's definitely going to be catching up throughout the lap. You know, each and every single corner, each and every single braking zone, he's just going to be carrying the bit extra speed that's just going to be allowing him to close, you know, just a lot quicker than normally. So it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes, and as soon as he catches, I'm not pretty sure if Brock is going to be putting up a fight, because, you know, you're just kind of 2 different strategies, and still 45 minutes to go. Might not risk an overall P9, I guess P10 as soon as he drops an excellent top 10 position for him. He might not risk it for defending a position.
Yeah, just a lot on the line here, even with 44 minutes to go, because now we're starting to get into that stage in this race where if you do have a problem, you do have an off, that you're not going to have the amount of allotted time perhaps required to make it up before the finish of this event. And we're seeing there Glenn Gray hop over the curbs in the Lamaze corner. That may stack up the field behind him a little bit. Oh, trouble! That's contact with the leader. Gray got bounced around there, and Gray's going to wash off the racetrack and tag the wall, but that was Walsh who climbed over the top. Gray still trying to get that car righted, and there may be damage to the leader and dominator and Chris Walsh.
there was an audible gasp throughout the commentary booth because that just caught everybody by surprise. As now we're going to see on the pit stop TV replay, looks like the car is fine for Chris as he does not elect to go down pit road. Looks like as he's just heading to the final section of Le Mans on the racetrack, he's just going to be carrying way more speed than the car ahead of him. As you can see now, a small mistake by the Porsche ahead of him. He elects to stick behind, but unfortunately the Porsche just does not see him, and a big contact, just that Porsche just jumped on two wheels. I'm not pretty sure if that's going to be enough to bring Chris back to the pit lane, because it looks like it isn't at the current moment. But that was a scary move, and I'm pretty sure Chris's heart just skipped a beat.
Well, we talked about the fact he had a close call last week at Mid-Ohio, and he's got another one here. And, I mean, look at the difference in speed as he was starting to close up on Glenn Gray, who overcooked the corner. Again, Gray, one of the open drivers, in the tire tracks, looking low, perhaps thinking that Gray's going to give him room. And they just kind of pinched him down there on the exit of Le Mans as they came off the turn. And that was a pretty significant impact. Looked as though it may have broke the right front component on Glenn Gray's car. That's what stuffed him into the wall. So what, in fact, could be wrong with that of Chris Walsh's machine? The gap back to second place in Dustin Burkhalter, still 54 seconds, but we'll see what ends up happening here for the race leader and dominator and Chris Walsh with 42, just under 43 minutes to go.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be interesting to see. It looks, his car, at least on my end, and it looks like on the broadcast as well, looks like it's completely fine. As you can see, doesn't look like it's dented anyway, so he might just got away with it, definitely lucky, especially considering how big the hit was. Obviously just putting those two left side tires on the air like that, definitely could have scared him and definitely could have gone a lot of different ways. But luckily for him, looks like it went the best way possible. And just like Mid-Ohio, I guess, the race is not 100% clean, even though he has an absolutely gigantic of a gap. A small mistake like that can end it pretty much instantly.
Yeah, so see, nobody is safe here when it comes to the competition here at the Sebring International Raceway. And with 42 minutes to go, let's offer up another shout out for some of the partners here at Operation eMotorsport in this league. And this series, of course, presented by our friends at RECARO. And they've been around for quite some time with their partnership with Operation Motorsport and, of course, this Operation eMotorsport series. And one of the big things about RECARO, we had a chance to interview somebody from RECARO a couple of weeks back, and he really got into the fact of how involved they are with this series because, and as their slogan says, when it comes to either on the track or even in iRacing, RECARO Automotive is all about making driving safer, more comfortable, and more controlled, so when you have a driving experience that you can really feel. RECARO Automotive puts people first every time, and an ergonomic sitting position means a comfortable position. So with the perfect seat contours and innovative features that support your body, RECARO Automotive makes driving fun, be it on the road or the racetrack. RECARO Automotive Performance seats are more than just a set of components. They exude innovation, quality, premium materials, craftsmanship, and a genuine passion for cars. RECARO Automotive is proud to support Operation Motorsports in iRacing, and they do an incredible job for so many people, our beneficiaries included. We also want to take this time to thank Mobil 1, because since day one, Mobil 1 Advanced Synthetic Motor Oils have been part of every Corvette racing win, and that tradition continues with the new mid-engine Corvette C8R. Today, Mobil 1 Racing and OW50 protects the next generation of America's sports cars on the track, while Mobil 1 Advanced Synthetic is still found under the hood of every Corvette off the track. No matter where the hood of your Corvette is located, it's always been Mobil 1 from day one. Mobil 1 is the world-leading synthetic motor oil brand, and the Corvette Racing C8R is now available in iRacing for anyone who's looking to experience that exhilarating mid-engine performance of the C8R in the virtual world. And again, thanks to Mobil 1 and RECARO for their year-long support of Operation eMotorsport and this sim racing league. With 40 minutes to go, as you see, Walsh is still extending the lead at the head of the pack, and here's David Levine on the pit lane. A couple of the cars that we did not think would make it to the end. We're starting to see drivers who are being forced to pit more than once in this event, and David Levine is one of them as he is exiting the pits here after his service. Still scored in 6th spot, with Charlie Bash trying to close up and overtake him on the exit of the pit lane. Levine will now burn up the rubber to enter turn number 1 and hold the 6th position for now.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like each and every single one of these drivers, they're making the pit stops. They're definitely going to be making to the end right now. So it's definitely going to be interesting. But now David Levine finds himself ahead of Charlie Bass. So not something we saw on the previous round of stops. So David Levine looks like he's saving the best for last at this current moment in time. So it's going to be interesting to see. And the battle that we said in the beginning that was not going to go away. It looks like Tyler Langenberg looks like he's finding himself on the racetrack again. Unfortunately for him, he was running so well, but right now he finds himself all the way down in 17th place. But looks like he made a few. Oh, he looks like he just pitted again. So another pro driver who just came out of the pits. Unfortunately for him, looks like he's making small progress. Finds himself in P17 at the moment in time. So small progress, but it's still progress. Am I right, Eric?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we consider the fact that Langenberg is somebody who started all the way at the tail end of the pack and had to endure a lot of ups and downs in this race. But let's talk about Brock Hogan, a beneficiary driver who is currently best in class right now, ahead of Justin Jarrett, who is currently second in the beneficiary running order. And actually, I stand corrected. Hogan is second in beneficiary, but he is running very well. He was leading earlier. Hunter Reeve, of course, well up the road in fifth. Hogan is second for the beneficiaries. Justin Jarrett is third, but they are all up in the top 10, which is a great day for some of these drivers. But Brock Hogan is somebody who we've talked about a lot here tonight, keeping his nose clean in the BMW, running a very smart race, and still up there in contention for what could be his first win in class this season, especially with so much racing still left to go as we're about to enter the final quarter of this event here with Wall still leading. And also we'll tip our cap to Jason Leach, who was up in the top 10 for quite some time, trying to get back up there as well, as we've got only 9 cars in the lead lap. Leach is currently scored in about the 12th position, trying to catch up on Callum Belden for the 11th spot as they come out of Le Mans corner and down the Ullman Straight once more.
Looks like Jason Leach is just carrying a lot more speed, just posting up the incredible lap times as we compare to Callum Belden, and it looks like he's just getting closer and closer. We might be seeing a move, not on Sunset Bend, but depending on their run, we could be seeing a move into turn 1. As you can see now, the straight is still keep going as Jason Leach is now, look at how close, look at just how much more speed he's carrying through Sunset, and you can see just getting a bit more tighter line and allows him to get a better exit then Callum Belden. They're going to be going side by side. It looks like Callum Belden elects to let Jason Leach go and not fight him too hard. So now Jason Leach fighting himself all the way in P11, trying to chase down Justin Jarrett for that P10 spot to try and get back, obviously, to the top 10 position that he found himself earlier in the race.
Yeah, so a lot of comers and goers in this event, to say the least, and a lot of very impressive performances for the time being. I think the biggest question we have now is, do the front runners have to stop again by any stretch of the imagination? We've seen a lot of the drivers who came in very early already come in for what should be their second and final trip to pit lane. But still a lot of shuffling to go on. And I think the other question we really need to offer up to the field is, you know, Chris Walsh, after he's had so many close calls with lap traffic, he's now starting to close in on Christopher Bailey to put him a lap down. That is something we haven't talked about all season. Granted, we've only had one extra distance event so far. But Bailey, who is in the sight lines of Charlie Bass to try to get up to 7th, but Walsh is putting on such an incredible run here tonight. He's in danger of lapping these two, who we thought may be contenders for the overall win at one point.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so surprising to see this pace. Obviously, Christopher, his race didn't go as planned, you know, but still, you know, it's just impressive to see the consistency that Chris is just presenting. Obviously, Christopher Bailey is putting up a kind of a comeback drive once again, trying to chase down Charlie Bass ahead of him. So might not be over. I'm pretty sure he's going to be fighting not to get lapped, but you know, it might just happen on the next few laps, because with the consistency that Chris is just presenting, it looks like we do have a slow car, and that is Charlie Bass. Looks like he just went slow through Sunset Bend. Oh, looks like he got loose. Are we going to confirm here on the Pit Stop TV replay? That is an upset on the race.
Yeah, Charlie Bass was somebody who also had to make a couple of pit stops, but was running very well. And again, Sunset Bend is going to bite again. I thought maybe the hairpin would be the trouble spot of the night. It appears, though, it's his final corner. JP alluded on the pre-race about how bumpy the entrance to this corner can be. And you see Bass there just make a big mistake. There goes the back end. Actually, the wall straightened him out a little bit there with a little bit of contact on the right front. That's what pointed him back in the right direction. But Nevertheless, Christopher Bailey was able to scoot on by, and that's going to kick Charlie Bass down one spot, while Bailey continues to try to stay out in front of the leader, with Chris Walsh closing up on both of them to put him a lap down. In fact, they were on the same straightaway that time through.
Yeah, and looks like not only that, but Charlie's gonna have to deal with some damage on that front end of that Porsche. Not a lot of damage, but some damage is definitely going to be slowing him down. So it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, now the car directly behind him is the leader, Chris Walsh. He just keeps on putting low lap times, incredible lap times. So I just expect him to keep doing more of the same. Essentially, not a single mistake on his part. He's just doing an absolutely fantastic race.
Yeah, and it looks as though we have one of the beneficiaries on the pit road. I believe that might be Theo Brolsema, who has come down for service for a second time. Indeed, it is. Brolsema, who had a second-place run in the championship, the only other beneficiary not named Hunter Reeve to grab a win this season. We saw him get involved in an incident while racing hard for position up in the top 10 earlier in this race, and he is now getting down for service for what should be the final time as we approach 33 minutes to go. And I got to love the hashtag on the bottom of the screen, because hashtag respect the bumps. That's definitely going to be the mantra that we utilize here for the rest of the night. And also, when we get down to the 12 hours of Sebring here in a couple weeks at this racetrack, I'm sorry, I should say a couple days, it all blends together at some point this coming weekend, where those bumps could be very challenging for everybody on each end of the racetrack, and it's caught out a couple of our top running competitors here already tonight.
Yeah, exactly. This track is just proving, that respect the bumps. I'm pretty sure it was actually on the driver's briefing here tonight, because this track is just proving to catch each and every single driver out. I guess except for Chris, not a mistake on his own on that instant. He has been the only driver so far that we haven't seen a replay over on a mistake from his part. So he just keeps on doing essentially what he needs to do, and well, he just keeps posting those lap times. As now it looks like we're gonna have a replay. I'm not sure what happened on track. I was just following the pit stops. Looks like Glenn Gray, the car behind the leader, did he just let him by in a dangerous fashion? I'm not pretty sure. That he's approaching turn 1, just dives down. I'm not pretty sure what happened, that the car just completely lost steering there. But that was definitely scary for Glenn Gray, just seeing that wall coming ever so closer. But luckily for him, he managed to keep all 4 tires and all bumpers on that car, and back on the racetrack he goes.
Yeah, Glenn Gray has had himself a night. It's been really tough to see Justin Jarrett, who was up in the top 10, having to come down for a second stop on the evening. So Jarrett hoping to get back up into a top 10 position after he seemed pretty excited to get things underway here later on tonight. As you can see, even despite the pit stop, currently about in the 12th spot. And as we approach the final quarter of this 2-hour event here on Pit Stop TV, let's offer up an opportunity to remind everybody that this event is brought to you by some of our longtime partners. For example, our friends at Tucson Sound Art, your picture, your music. Head on over and check out their products and services at the website link provided down below, TucsonSoundArt.com. Use the promo code PitStopTV at checkout for 10% off your wall-mounted sound art device today. We are also brought to you by our partner at Race Pace. Be sure to pick up the pace with Race Pace, a true community. As you can see, the Discord link is listed down below to be a part of it. It is a community-driven setup shop and driver development program. And again, you can pick up your pace with Race Pace setups. Also brought to you by our longtime partner, Permanent Makeup in Maine, because you deserve the best care that money can buy. For more information about their available products and services, visit permanentmakeupinmaine.com to learn more. And finally, we are brought to you by our longstanding partner and parent company at Whiplash Media. Whiplash Media is the official graphic and camera provider of Pit Stop TV. They also have an ever-presence in the real world of racing action. And to learn more about all that Whiplash Media has to offer, check out their website at whiplash-media.com. So, Chris Walsh still out in front of the field by a relatively large margin over Dustin Burkhalter, Thomas Outs in third, Trevor Hill in the fourth spot, and Hunter Reeve, the highest running beneficiary, trying to clinch the championship, rounding out your top 5 with Levine, Bailey, Bass, Leach, Belden, your top 10 with under 30 minutes to go, but still a lot of fighting for position happening out on the racetrack. And so far, it is Chris Bailey and Charlie Bass, the last two cars on the lead lap, having one of the best races in the top 10.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like that damage on Charlie Bass has not knocked his confidence out, even though he might have knocked his front bumper a bit in. Looks like he's just still applying pressure lap after lap on Christopher Bailey, who does not seem to be catching David Levine at this moment in time. So he might be just trying to soak in all the pressure that he has been getting from Charlie Bass. And all throughout that battle, Chris Walsh is just getting closer and closer from those two. So if they don't want to be lapped, they definitely have to pick up the pace. But they just don't seem to get away. It just looks like Charlie Bass can just seem to match the pace of the driver ahead on any given moment in the racetrack. Doesn't matter which driver it is, and just stick to him, just applying that pressure lap after lap.
And as we've seen pro drivers, open drivers, beneficiaries, so many people slip up in this sector of the racetrack, including Charlie Bass. He's one of the competitors. That's how he lost the spot to Christopher Bailey, coming right here through Sunset Bend when the back end of that car got extremely light. And we pointed out the fact that these drivers are possibly going to be finishing this race on a very, very light fuel load. And that will change the handle on some of these cars as we have the leader coming down for a pit stop again. Chris Walsh, the pro driver who had a lead over 1 minute on Dustin Burkhalter, the runner-up, is in fact going to pit twice. And here he comes down the pit lane for service for what we expect to be the final time with 28 minutes to go.
Yeah, exactly. The car went up in jack, so he's definitely taking tires. He definitely has the time to take up those tires, over a minute gap from Dustin. Obviously, now I'm pretty sure Dustin's going to have to pit again, because with 27 minutes to go, I'm not pretty sure if he's going to be extending that fuel tank that much further. But even if he is, can he come back ahead of Chris Walsh? He's just making his way on the back straight, just heading to Sunset Bend. So it's going to be quite close if those two, obviously, these two right here, they don't have to pit again. So they got a breather from getting lapped, and they can keep on their battle. Trying to fight over P7, trying to catch David Levine for P6.
As we ride on board with Charlie Bass, the one question that I am wondering is if, in fact, Walsh had elected to maybe repair some of the damage he may have sustained in the contact with the lap car at Glenn Gray. That would obviously cost more time on the pit lane. If so, he's still going to get out well ahead of Dustin Burkhalter in the tune of just under 7 seconds. So he's got the healthy lead. Whether or not he elected to fix the car is another question. Burkhalter, though, 7 seconds back, still running in second, while Thomas Outson is about 21 seconds behind them, rounding out your podium position. But Walsh with an opportunity maybe to get that car repaired if any major damage was sustained in that contact and close call. And he's got 26 plus more minutes to keep this thing on the road en route to what could be yet another victory on the season. This one, though, to cap off what has been an amazing Winter League campaign for Operation eMotorsport. Walsh, Burkhalter, Outson, your podium right now, with currently Hunter Reeve trying to have another top 5 in the overall, another beneficiary victory, and perhaps sew up the beneficiary title.
Yeah, exactly. Hunter having an absolutely fantastic race. I guess after that first battle that we had between the beneficiaries, he just kind of flew under the radar, and he just finds himself on, I guess, on no man's land on his own in P5, but doing an excellent race to keep up that position. No mistakes. Just like Chris, Chris, I guess, could be said he has been flying under the radar because we just haven't seen him ever since, I'd say, lap 4. And, well, he just proven why he's the best pro driver, I guess, on the grid, why he's the man to beat. Unfortunately for him, couldn't participate on each and every single race this season, therefore he couldn't fight for the championship. But I'm sure if he was taking part on every race, he was definitely on the fight for the championship.
And I will say, and I want our viewers to totally understand the approach of Chris Walsh. It was more of a laid-back approach this season. Didn't feel pressured to have to compete in each and every race to support this series, and he did so in a number of ways. If you missed our pre-race coverage earlier, Andrew Cardinale IV helped work with Chris Walsh to put together some side-by-side comparison that offered up a different perspective of how a couple of different cars handled this very tough 3.6-mile track. Chris also joined us in the broadcast booth for a couple of races. He offered his services each and every week if and when needed and called upon. He is exceptionally passionate about all that Operation Motorsport and this esports series has to offer, and he does a lot beyond just signing up with the pro tag on his name, coming out and running very well every time he's on the entry blank. He is so passionate about being part of this field. And even though he may come in and stink up the show every now and then, he loves what this series is all about. And it also gives a lot of these other drivers, like that of a Rodney Campbell, who we're on board with, or some of the beneficiaries in the field, look out. That's a big hit for Justin Jarrett, who crashes in front of Campbell with a hard hit to the inside wall.
Just on the exit of turn 1, looks like he just caught a bit of the grass on the exit. As we mentioned, the grass just comes so quickly, as we're going to see on the replay. Unfortunately for him, overcorrected, and that was a massive hit. That was not a big hit. That was an absolutely massive hit. Head on, as you can see, they're just going to turn 1. You think you're on the right track, but unfortunately, their rear wheel just dips on the dirt, and he just plows into that concrete barrier. That's a big sustained damage on that Porsche. It looks like he has not only I guess just visible damage, but definitely that suspension took a bit hit, and he's definitely going to be finding himself back on pit lane on this lap, because that was unfortunate for him. Just P12, and a small mistake like that can pretty much throw it all away.
Yeah, and as luck would have it for Justin Jarrett, who we're on board with here, he, of course, by the time that he went off to driver's right, where that Armco barrier was approaching, he hit the protective concrete barrier that you alluded to, JP, that separates one of the runoff areas that they would utilize here, sometimes to oftentimes allow people to load or unload in or have track emergency services vehicle. You're going to see it real close here in about a second, because he comes right across this little access road and pounds the concrete, actually hit the end of where the guardrail meets the concrete, to cause a lot of damage to the front of that Porsche. And Justin Jarrett, who had a top 10 run going earlier in the overall, was about third for the beneficiaries at one point in this race, now has significant damage to that car with not too much time left to go to get it repaired.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately for him, just on the tail end of the race, and that's just a heartbreak essentially for him. But you know, we still have over 20 minutes to go. He can still put up a few lap times. He's definitely going to be coming up ahead of a lot of drivers, so he could still be fighting for some positions, as we do still have the battle between, looks like, Charlie Bass, David Levine, and Christopher Bailey. It looks like Christopher Bailey now finds himself ahead of David Levine on this lap, so Christopher just making moves, as we do have here the replay of the move. Looks like they're just heading to turn 13. Christopher is just going to be carrying a lot of speed on the inside line. David Levine is not going to be giving him enough room, but looks like he just runs a bit wide, and that just allows Christopher to make the move. Makes it a lot easier, and it looks like now David Levine is going to have to be chasing Christopher to try and get back to the P6 spot.
Yeah, those two seem pretty much virtually inseparable. It's almost as if there's a magnet tied to David Levine and Christopher Bailey's cars tonight, because they've been around each other a lot. And one makes a mistake, the other one pounces, and then it seems to ebb and flow a little bit back and forth between the two of them. So as we continue to roll on here with this event, coming up on the final 20 minutes or so, when we have an opportunity, we're going to step aside here. We'll be back on the other side here with the remainder of this event for the season finale of Operation eMotorsport after a few words from the series.
Hi, I'm Tiffany from Operation Motorsport, and we're here at CTMP for CTCC, first round of our Back to Racing with Theo.
Hi, everybody.
So I'm just going to ask Theo a couple of questions. As you can see, we are all masked up, and you'll have to pardon us. It's a little bit hard to breathe and talk at the same time. So, Theo, I know that you've done some track days at Calabogie. Can you tell me, how's it feel to be back at the track?
It feels really good. Just being here, competing again, I'm a pretty competitive person. So Calabogie, the races were fun, but they're kind of like an intro to the season, getting warmed up again. This is the first real competition again. So we got a field of about 7 or 8 TCR cars, and it's looking like a good season for that. So,
what's the best part about being here today, this weekend?
I don't really know. No. I don't really know. Nothing really comes to mind. I really like it.
It's just that whole atmosphere.
Yeah, the whole atmosphere, just being out of the house again. Yeah.
What did you do for the last 4 months?
I finished up my what school I was doing. Finished off my semester. And then I didn't do much. I went home, I worked on the Supra project car a lot. Way too much. Still not done, but whatever.
That's all right.
Yeah.
So how has coming back to the track or knowing that this is what's going to happen, how's it affected your mental health?
It's definitely been like a bit motivating. Kind of as a goal that I need to, you know, keep working out, keep taking care of myself to get ready for this so I can perform again. And it's nice to see that I am in a good place now. And
So you're not tired or beat up or anything?
No, I can show up and do like 3 back-to-back 18-hour days and I'm fine.
And you're fine?
So,
good.
Yeah.
So you've been with Operation Motorsport for 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
If you can think back, I guess, upon reflection,
yeah.
how has this helped you?
It's definitely gave me direction, and that's the biggest thing, I think. Because coming out of the military, I was really not sure of what I wanted to do. And even though I'm still not sure of what I want to do, ever, it's definitely it gives me a way to learn and a way to progress in a meaningful way. And that's been really helpful.
So has it encouraged you to try new things?
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. Because of this racing, I started doing some go-karting last year, and I'm just about, right after this race is done, I'm going to go over to Goodwood and do a go-karting race there. And I definitely got into that because I was into this racing. Yeah.
What's the difference in your relationships that you would say within the team atmosphere here as to what it was like in the military?
It's actually really similar. Really similar dynamic. Actually, a little less swearing on the teams. the racing guys won't believe that, but it's true. And a little less professional here, but not professional. That's not the right word. A little less stuck up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So the last question I have, for me, is what's the worst part of the day?
Waking up and no, I'm joking.
I agree.
The worst part about this weekend is that we had so much to do on Friday. It was like back-to-back sessions, 5 sessions in a day. And then Saturday and Sunday, it's like, get here super early in the morning, do your qualifying, and then sit around for 4 hours.
And do nothing.
So,
okay.
It's a little bit of hanging out. I think I'm going to take the cart around and go explore and find some more friends and say hi, do that sort of thing.
So I have a question from Ron Tomlinson, and he asks, what drove you to join the military? He doesn't understand what would make you take that path, and everybody's answer is different.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that one for a little bit. I don't think there was any single defining moment or anything like that. I always liked aircraft and I liked flying, and from that came kind of an obsession with the technical side of it. And so I did want to do engineering for a while. My whole family's engineers, but I also wanted to do something a little different. Right getting out of high school, I did a 5th year high school because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then I took a year off and did some other small-time jobs, and still didn't really know what I wanted to do, and kind of really wanted to get out of the house and get away from my parents a little bit and do my own thing. And the military was giving me an option to do that.
Yeah.
And so I already had an interest in it because of cadets and all that other stuff. So it seemed like a really logical step.
So you sort of knew that was what I had said to Ron.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because of, some people do cadets beforehand or are in the reserves, so they sort of know what they're getting into, and some of them don't.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you, Theo. I appreciate the time.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Back at Sebring, there's been no shortage of excitement. This fight for 6th spot between David Levine and Charlie Bass has been non-stop, and you saw a mistake there right as that clip came to an end. Charlie Bass got the car cocked sideways, and Levine took advantage after they battled in the turn number 17 side by side the last 2 laps. This time it's Lamar's corner that catches Charlie Bass off guard, and he was lucky not to have the back end of the car swap ends on him here as Levine squirts by.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much a carbon copy of what David Levine did a few laps ago. Just the back end wouldn't stick throughout this Le Mans section, and luckily for him, he didn't do a complete 360, managing to keep the car pointing on the right position. But looks like we do have a battle for fourth right now, as Thomas Zoutsen is defending for his life against Christopher Bailey, as Christopher now gets lost through that corner, and it looks like now Thomas Zoutsen got lost as they head into the back straight, and that's gonna cost him the position. Unfortunately, he dropped back from Hunter Reeve, and right now he's gonna find himself all the way down in P5 after running on the podium throughout the lap.
Yeah, that's not just for fourth spot. That was for the open lead after Christopher Bailey has had a comeback of comebacks here tonight so far. Finds himself one spot shy of the podium. How about Hunter Reeve, the beneficiary leader, up into a podium spot, while Thomas Zoutsen has to try to battle back here and get back up and around Bailey. But Bailey's car seems to be coming into its own here in the final 14 minutes as we move up here on Hunter Reeve, who holds down third for the time being, and he is having a spectacular run. By my record, this would be his second overall podium of the season, and it would be his 7th beneficiary win in 8 races if he can hang on for these final 13 and a half minutes, and he's pushing hard.
Yeah, exactly. He's giving everything because he knows at this moment in time that the driver behind him is Christopher Bailey, and Christopher has been on a charge, so he definitely wants to keep himself ahead, and looks like these two are back at it. Charlie Bass trying to chase down again David Levine as they head into the Le Mans section of the racetrack on the second to last corner, as now they're going to be heading on the back straight, this absolutely massive back straight. They're both drivers are going to actually, Charlie Bass is going to be getting a slipstream, not close enough, looks like it, to mount a challenge essentially into a Sunset Bend, but he's definitely going to be close enough as he shows his confidence. Just as you can see, the car just bouncing, both Porsches bouncing as they both now head into the start finish straight into turn 1.
And Hunter Reeve, the driver who is third in the overall in the beneficiary lead, has had to come down for service with under 13 minutes to go. This is going to shuffle up the running order significantly. It's going to put Bailey in a podium spot. Brock Hogan is the next highest running beneficiary driver. He was a lap down, so it's going to depend on where Chris Walsh may be to give us an idea as to whether or not Reeve will stay on the lead lap. It looks as though he will. He's fallen to 8th for the time being, and he will remain at the head of the field for the beneficiaries, but fall out of a podium spot.
Yeah, exactly. A bit of a shame to make a stop that early, but these two are going side by side. Charlie Bass now looks like he's on the inside for the hairpin. He got the move down into turn 1. David Levine now is going to be doing the switchback, and he now finds himself on the inside. He's going to be deeper on the brakes. He's going to get that move done. Charlie Bass is going to be trying to mount the undercut, the under and over, but looks like he might not just nail it, as you can see just how close these drivers are between one another. And looks like Charlie Bass now might be looking to get the slipstream as they head now into turn 8. He's going to be looking down the inside line. Is he going to get the move? Looks like he just breaks a bit later, but David Levine is on the outside line. He holds the corner and he stays ahead for the time being, but Charlie Bass, I cannot get a break. He stays down the inside. Is he going to make a move on to turn 10? Again, David Levine is deeper on the brakes. He's going to be holding the outside, and that looks like might be it for the time being.
Yeah, but look at this. Trevor Hill's up into the mix now. It's a 3-car race for 5th on back for the final spot in the top 10. 2 pros, 1 open competitor. And Trevor Hill may be the fastest of the 3 of them right now, as Levine and Bass are putting on a clinic on how you could run side by side for multiple laps, it seems, at the 3.6-mile Sebring International Raceway. There is a lap car up ahead. Will that be a factor here in this battle? As you see Charlie Bass defend there on driver's right. Looks as though he's pulling out of the way here. And that's a slowdown penalty for Charlie Bass. He's going to have to give up that spot to Trevor Hill. And now it's Hill who's going to try to vie for a top 5 position here in the final 10-plus minutes.
Looks like the race is coming on Trevor Hill's, on a plate for him, essentially. He now finds himself just behind Charlie Bass to try and fight, as you said, for that 6th place spot after finding himself on 8th throughout the race. That's definitely what he wanted. Now the question is he fast enough not only to pass David Levine but also mount a challenge? It looks like Justin Jarrett again finds himself going a bit wide on turn 1, but looks like he's going to be heading out of the way of David Levine. Looks like he might just hold up a bit of Trevor Hill. Yes, oh, Trevor gets extremely close, loses a bit of time, and that allows Charlie Bass just to get right behind him as they head now into turn 6.
Not missing anything at the front of the pack. Walsh still the leader. Burkhalter still second. Bailey the highest running open driver in third. This is the best race we've got going on track, though. We got 9 cars on the lead lap. This is 5th, 6th, 7th. Hunter Reeve running in 8th. Highest running beneficiary driver. Jason Leach, the last car on the lead lap. But this has been a great fight with David Levine, Trevor Hill, and Charlie Bass. And this fight is going to continue to rage on all the way to the finish as we got 9.5 minutes to go. Walsh still ahead of the pack by a large margin. Oh, Levine with a slide.
Yeah, looks like Levine just went a tad bit wide on the exit of turn 10, and that allowed Trevor Hill to get closer than ever to his back bumper. He's now going to be mounting the challenge. Ooh, it looks like David Levine now is just getting awfully loose on this final few laps as he now finds himself drifting through turn 12, sorry, and looks like now he's definitely under pressure, but looks like Charlie Bass is not close enough. This is all Trevor Hill now as they're going to be heading to the Le Mans section and on that massive backstraight where, you know, with the slipstream you could be going side by side into Sunset Hill.
Yeah, David Levine appears to be struggling in this final sector of the racetrack, but look at all the traffic that's up ahead. This is remarkable for the final few moments of this race. Levine has to keep it all under wraps. I believe that's Campbell, the next car up ahead, and it looks as though Hill is having a look. This has been the mistake-prone portion of the racetrack. Levine enters a very tight line. Hill runs up a little bit wide. This fight's going to come all the way through Sunset Bend. They're all taking differing lines here as they come up onto the main straightaway. Levine up the track. Here comes Hill trying to move up to 5th.
He put up an amazing line to get pretty much a cutback line on David Levine, and he got that to work. Now he's gonna have to be fighting off David for the next few corners because we saw over and over and over again David's just the master of taking that position back, but looks like for the time being Trevor has P7, and as David steps on the grass he's gonna be losing a lot of spots, but luckily for him he keeps the car pointing in the right direction. Unfortunately for him, looks like he's gonna be losing touch for both drivers.
Yeah, Levine there got in way late on the brakes, and I think that last move to driver's right was an effort to not pile into the back of Trevor Hill after he got way late on the blinders. We're going to go back and take one more look at it. You see Levine here digging hard to try to keep pace with Hill. He wants to follow him through this sector, maybe till they got to the hairpin, and there's the back end of the car, twitching on him there. And we talked about how sensitive these Porsches are with the fuel loads changing, and we're pretty late in this run, so that car is going to be relatively light there, considering the fact that these drivers have their hands full at this point in the race, and Levine is showing how. It's going to mean that Hill and Bass are going to duke it out for that 5th spot for the time being with 7 minutes to go.
Yeah, exactly. Now the question is, can Charlie Bass match the pace of Trevor Hill, or does Trevor, he was just holding out till the end of the race because it looks like now he has a healthy gap, probably a bit just on the outside of the slipstream range, so he could be setting himself up for a top 5 finish. But as we just saw, at any given moment in time, we can see a mistake, we can see a slowdown penalty for each and every single one of these drivers. So it's definitely not over with still over 6.5 minutes to go. Charlie Bass, I'm pretty sure, is going to be attacking this racetrack because I'm positive he wants a top 5 finish.
Yeah, he had the pace to run up top 3 at one point in this event. However, differing pit strategies and a little bit of bad luck and a couple of side steps may have pushed him down the running order. And although Hill's starting to open up a bit of a gap on him here, since they've shaken free of David Levine, Hill's been able to keep that advantage relatively stable. And again, as we now got 6 minutes to go, Walsh, Burkhalter, Bailey, your podium, and a crash. That's Charlie Bass off the final turn. He hits the inside wall before the pit entrance and is trying to rejoin on the main straightaway. Look out, Hunter Reeve nearly clobbered the back of Bass, and that may have been it for Reeve if he got involved in that incident.
I was just gonna mention I just caught it on the overall shot, and Charlie Bass has just lost it on the exit of Sunset Bend. As you can see now here, he just goes completely normally through that apex farther away than we saw anyone losing the car, and just on the exit, he just hits the bump, I guess, on the wrong way. And unfortunately for him, his car just careers out of control and gets more damage to the front, I guess, bumper. And as you can see, he stops, hesitates, and then he just comes back in a hunt to Reeve with some reflexes, and I'm pretty sure the heart on his mouth manages to avoid the spinning car of Charlie Bess.
Hunter Reeve, I'm not sure if he's got bad luck because he's always so close to trouble, or if he was touched by an angel by his ability to navigate his way through incidents. As you can see, just look up the road. Everything is clear ahead in what could be a championship-winning drive here at Sebring until right here. Coming off the final turn on the main straightaway, next thing you know, there's a car pulling out right in front of him. He's able to dart down to the inside and actually pick up a spot in the process to get by Bass, but that was certainly a scare, a last-minute scare it would be for Reeve, an effort for it perhaps taking home a championship. Now we got eyes on Christopher Bailey here, who was the open leader. This is coming through the hairpin now. Bailey en route to maybe sew up a third-place run or to capture the Open Championship when all said and done. Remember, he also claimed a couple of overall wins, I should say, this season. May have to settle for a podium effort here today, but Bailey, who's battled back from some adversity himself, including a Turn 1, Lap 1 incident that included some contact, now navigating this course here with clear running room out the windshield and further back. But look at that. Bailey oversteps the corner and spins out of the third spot, does Bailey. Able to get back on the binders here, get that car slowed down, pull out up nearly in front of traffic. That could have been disastrous for Bailey. And he will lose, I don't believe he lost any actual positions on the racetrack. We'll check the running order. And it sounds as if he did lose the third spot, did Bailey. So that's going to give Outson the open lead for the time being with 3.5 minutes remaining.
Yeah, Outson got gifted that against all odds with that car, as we mentioned on the pre-race show. But, you know, just keeping your nose clean, as he does get a little bit squirrely on the exit of this section. Luckily for him, no harm done, but as you mentioned, on the lead of the open class and on the overall podium, this is turning out to be the dream finale of a race, I guess, that Thomas Outson could be hoping for after qualifying in 8th. So if he can just keep himself with just 3 minutes to go, just a few laps, just 2 extra laps to go, if he can keep his head cool and just avoid any mistakes, he could be going on not only for the lead, for the win of his class, but also for the podium.
So things have changed relatively quickly here at the front of the pack. Walsh still the leader, still by a pretty healthy advantage over Dustin Burkhalter, who's second. Outson rounds out the podium. There's a lap car ahead, and how about that heads-up move there by Theo Broselma? He understood the situation, got out of harm's way, and it's going to allow Christopher Bailey and Thomas Outson to battle this out for the open win in the final spot on the podium, while Trevor Hill rides 5th, a ways back. But if something crazy should happen with these two, that would open the door for Hill to sneak out an open win. And behind him comes David Levine, who's on the charge. Back further forward is that of Levine. Since Charlie Bash crashed, Levine has been closing up on Hill to try to get back up here into the top 5. So we got battles all over the racetrack. While Bailey's got a run here on the Ullman Straight, trying to get back to the open lead. Outson tries to defend. Bailey darts out low, trying to move up to P3 and take the open lead back as they come to the final corner.
Thomas definitely didn't make that easy, trying to force him into the wall and essentially just trying to avoid any moves, but looks like that's not going to be enough, as Christopher Bailey on the exit just seems to be stretching out a gap and might not be it. Obviously, we still have a lot of racing to do, but Thomas Outson felt the pressure on these final few laps. Maybe the tires are not as healthy as he hoped, but Christopher Bailey finds himself after the mistake back again on the podium.
Bailey back up to P3, back into the open lead as we're going to be coming around to what should be the white flag on Chris Walsh next time by, under 1 minute and 20 seconds to go. Walsh down the Ullman Straight, again out in front of the pack in another dominating fashion. Now, it has not been uneventful all the way throughout. Had a very close call after bouncing off the side of Glenn Gray towards the latter stages of the halfway point. Actually, it was right after the halfway point. But after 2 pit stops, the second of which may have been to actually tend to a little bit of damage that he sustained, it's going to be Walsh coming to the line here, trying to wrap up the season with what could be back-to-back victories after dominating at Mid-Ohio. He's searching for his 3rd win of the season, and the driver who did not have a full-time run throughout this season, is trying to close out his season with a bang while the battles continue throughout the field.
Yes, exactly. We see now we have the onboard of David Levine as he now is chasing Travis Hill, sorry, and looks like he's gonna be catching him up shortly as he looks like he's down to 1.5 seconds now. The gap now with just under a lap to go this might be the final lap if I'm not mistaken, depending on where Chris Walsh is on the racetrack. They might only be having 1.5 laps left to battle, so this is definitely going to be interesting, as now we can see Chris Walsh is definitely on the second sector of the racetrack as he just exited the hairpin, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, that's turn 10 by the looks of it. So yeah, as you can see now on the timing screens, that's the final lap for Chris Walsh. So it looks like a lot of the drivers being that far behind, they're going to have 1.5 laps to battle, but this is the final lap for Chris after, I guess, a walk in the park, we could say, a Sunday drive for him. He's now heading to the final sector of not only the track but the season as well.
With all due respect, though, he's got to be shaking a little bit because the car that almost cost him everything is right up in front of him in Glenn Gray. He's got to maybe he's just going to sit back and ride, decide that he's not going to push the issue with a lead in excess of, 49 seconds, it looks like. And it looks as though, yes, he's just going to kind of coast his way here through the Lamar Straight and through the Lamar's corner and down the Ullman Straight for the final time. Not going to get up there and try to force the issue on Gray, and he has one corner left to navigate. What a season it's been for that of Chris Walsh. Not running full-time, but certainly wearing a number of different hats in the 2021 Winter League season. Got his first win back at VIR, came back at Mid-Ohio to dominate and win in exceptional fashion there. He shows up here at Sebring and wins the final event of the season. After dominating the night, the season finale is going to go to Chris Walsh, who takes top honors here at Sebring and closes out the Operation eMotorsport season with a victory. Again, in absolutely dominating fashion.
Just missing on the Grand Slam. Obviously didn't lead every single lap because this guy right here put it, but a different strategy, only pitting once against each and every single other driver who pitted twice. Dustin Burkhalter denied the Grand Slam for Chris Walsh. He's heading now into the final corner. Christopher Bailey as well is going to be finishing off in third after a roller coaster of a race. If we're being honest, for him, he's definitely going to be happy with that third place finish. But not only what a race, Eric, what a season we've had.
Absolutely incredible season for all involved, and we're not necessarily done yet as Thomas Outson is trying to hold on here towards the end. How about Trevor Hill with a solid day to climb his way all the way up into a top 5 position late in the going? David Levine not that far behind as these cars are going to cycle their way through to the finish line. Again, Chris Walsh's lead was so big at the time of the checkers that these drivers have yet to even make it to the finish line to officially be scored in their final running positions, with Walsh the winner, Burkhalter second, Bailey the open winner, rounding out your podium. Outson with a strong run, Hill in 5th, David Levine 6th, Charlie Bass, despite crashing with about 4 laps to go, still running in 7th and on the lead lap, has to make it through Sunset Bend one final time before he can lay claim to that spot. And a little bit further back comes Hunter Reeve, who is about to cap off a championship-winning effort with his 7th beneficiary win of the season on a track in which he wasn't sure how the night was going to pan out, and he's got one more corner to take before he can make it official.
Well, I guess none of us had any idea how amazing this race was going to be. Definitely Hunter had his heart in his mouth, I'd say, on a few occasions throughout this race, but he managed to pull through it. He comes very slowly and celebrating not only this, another victory for him, a top 10 finish, but also his championship. So fantastic effort from Hunter, not only in this race, but throughout the championship, just showing, I guess, the class of his class, just showing how you should never give up on a racetrack. Even though he qualified all the way back, he managed to fight himself through, and now you can burn it down, my man. You earned it.
We talked to Hunter in the pre-race show, and he wasn't quite sure about his level of confidence, wasn't ready to say that he had this thing clinched by any stretch of the imagination, despite the fact he had a pretty healthy advantage and navigated his way through multiple incidents tonight. And you can see just how much this means to Hunter Reeve, as he's basically sewed up the championship for the beneficiaries by virtue of his 8th place finish, with Jason Leach coming home in 9th, Rock Hogan, your top 10. We're going to step aside. We have a number of top-running finishers to talk to and a few of our champions as well as we wrap up the season for Operation eMotorsport here on Pit Stop TV. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Sound art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it sound art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
Sebring International Raceway, the birthplace of American endurance racing.
Sebring is a lot of fun, a huge amount of history. Sebring, 12 hours, one of the hardest, most physical tracks on driver.
That is awesome racing.
Sebring is bumpy.
Hashtag respect the bumps.
Sebring is intense.
12-hour racing is demanding on the cars and the drivers as well.
Sebring has got to be the most challenging racetrack on planet Earth.
There's really nothing else quite like Sebring.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Welcome back to the virtual Sebring International Raceway, where we just wrapped up our Season 4, the Operation eMotorsport Series Winter League presented by RECARO. And tonight's 2-hour event kind of matched the level of intensity that we saw all season long. And a familiar name led the field to the checkered flag. Even though his result did not have championship implications per se, it was a driver in which we spoke to just 1 week ago under similar circumstances. And we are, of course, talking about our overall winner and our winner for the pros in Chris Walsh. And Chris, first off, welcome to the broadcast booth. Secondly, though, I wasn't sure if you were going to be able to come out with a stronger performance than what you showed at Mid-Ohio, but you went ahead and got it done in a race that was twice as long on a track that some may argue is even more difficult than the roller coaster that makes up the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. How did you get the job done in the fashion in which you did here today, man?
I just went out and tried to, drive the pace I thought I had. I was pretty quick in practice and qualifying. So, yeah, I just went out and said, hey, let's be consistent. Let's try to stay, at 80% of that and see if the field can hang on. The guys, it seemed like there were some great tight battles behind me. So I'm sure there was some awesome racing. But, the track, it was pretty cool for Sebring in the beginning of the race. So we had a good amount of grip. But, long stints with burning through those tires, made the end of the stints a little bit more interesting and seeing how the pace would drop off. But yeah, I had a good time.
Now, ironically, similar to last week, you had one very close call. I won't even call it a close call because it was contact coming through Lamar's corner. I believe it was Glenn Gray who he ended up bouncing off the side of there, just past the halfway point in the race. Was that a split-second moment where you thought, even with a 40-plus second lead, that it was all over from there? Or how heart-stopping was that for you, even with the huge lead you had at the time?
Yeah, I thought Glenn saw me coming and kind of left a bit of a gap there for me to come inside, so that's what I was doing. So I was on me. I misjudged that entirely. Yeah, I thought for sure, I was like, oh man, I'm about to go into the wall and that's going to be it. But luckily it wasn't too intense. It didn't take any top end speed away from the car. So we just, rubbed a little bit and we were able to keep moving.
Certainly took all of our breath away in the broadcast booth. I think we all collectively had one big gasp. But you went on to win the race, as we mentioned, huge margin of victory at the checkered flag, similar to what you did last week. Third win of the season, but Chris, we touched on it multiple times throughout the broadcast. You didn't run the full season, but you were a part of this series all the way through, whether it was helping out on our end with the broadcast, maybe providing some additional footage that we utilized for the intro. And I want to ask you, as the season winds down, what is it about this series and this organization that is so important and so special to you? You carry the pro tag, the pro number plate, the pro colors, but it obviously means a lot to you to be a part of this series in such a grand capacity. Why is that, and why does it make winning even all that much more special?
Yeah, I mean, everything that Operation Motorsport is about and what this series is really about the beneficiaries and honoring and supporting our veterans, our wounded and, disabled and medically retired veterans is really, really righteous. So to be involved with that, even, in any capacity, even when I was traveling and wasn't able to race, whatever I could do to help with the series and give back in some way to make it an enjoyable experience, it was my goal. So I think the guys enjoyed it. As always, they put on a good show and they all improved throughout the season. So it's just awesome to see it and get to interact with these guys every week or whenever I can be around. So yeah, it's a great organization all around, and they are very professional and they put on a very professional show for sure.
Well, I think I could speak on behalf of everybody that not only does the organization appreciate all that you do, but we do here at Pit Stop TV. And, really pleasure to be able to work with you throughout the season. And you've set the bar very, very high from a competitive standpoint. Third win of the season, again, back-to-back dominating efforts to close it out. Chris, who do you have to thank for making all this possible to be able to come out here for a 2-hour event at Sebring and just stomp them?
Yeah, I mean, our sponsors that make all this stuff possible, Mobile One, RECARO, what you guys do at Pit Stop TV, again, the broadcasts are awesome. They're very fun to watch back. And Air Force Gaming, Porsche Sport Media, and my family that supports me through all this, and obviously Operation Motorsport for putting all this together and supporting the beneficiaries and everyone out there that gives money or time to help this organization run. That's what it's all about.
And again, for more information, everybody could visit operationmotorsport.org. Chris, great job tonight, man, all the way through. You had them covered. Again, 3rd win of the year. Great way to end the season. We look forward to talking to you again soon, man. Congratulations.
All right, thank you. Have a great evening.
And again, that's Chris Walsh, our winner here tonight for the overall and for the pros. And even though that race did not have championship implications, the race for the beneficiaries did. Hunter Reeve got himself another win and also capped off the beneficiary championship. Going to throw it over to JP Costos to be standing by with our winner and champion from tonight, and Hunter Reeve.
So Hunter, before we talk about the elephant in the room, which was the championship, we got to talk about, I guess the weekend and the race didn't start as exciting for you because you qualified in P12. What happened in qualifying? Couldn't just find a lap? Were you struggling a bit with the car? What happened in qualifying?
Kind of struggling with the front tires with the new up we did. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I just feel like I can't get any grip in the front tires. So.
Well, that was certainly, I guess, kind of helped you because in that turn 1 incident, you were not only lucky but skillful enough to make it through everything and just find yourself up in, I'm pretty sure it was the top 5 at the end of lap 1. So how did everything unfold in your point of view over that lap 1 incident?
Yeah, just tried to avoid incidents the best I could and keep it clean. And then unfortunately I had my own incident, which was pretty annoying, but yeah, just pretty much just rolling out of the throttle, just hoping the best happens.
It was not only lap 1, obviously you had a few incidents that you managed to avoid, and while everybody was unfortunately plowing into the wall and into each other, you just managed to pull through it all. But as the race went down and obviously as the checkered flag fell, you were crowned the champion. How did it feel not only to win in your class, but also the championship?
It's not my line, but the cars are fake, the racing's real, so it feels pretty good to win a championship. Especially there's been Theo challenged me the whole season. I felt bad about his incident he had earlier in the race, but it feels good to win a championship.
Well, hopefully it's the first for many. And who do you have to thank not only for the race, the championship, but also the season?
Yeah, just big thanks to Operation Motorsports. Jason Leach, who runs this league, he does a phenomenal job. Mobile One, RECARO, the partnership in this series and with Operation Motorsports is just amazing. HJ Motorsports and Tooth Auto Sport.
Well, I'm sure they're extremely proud of you. Thank you for the show that you provided us. It was amazing talking to you throughout the season. Well done again on the championship, and I hope you get a few minutes out of your day tonight to celebrate because you certainly deserve it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
That was Hunter Reeve, not only a race winner for his class, but also the championship winner here tonight for the beneficiary class. And now, I'm gonna pass it back to Eric so we can get another championship here tonight.
Thanks a lot, JP. And now we're going to turn our attention to the Open category, where this driver not only captured multiple wins throughout the season for the Open drivers, but also got himself 2 overall victories on the night. Tonight, he saw himself grab top honors for the Open competitors, and with that, he was also able to cement the Open championship. We're going to talk to Christopher Bailey, who comes into the broadcast booth. And Christopher, I think you would win the award for the driver who had the most exciting last 3 rounds of racing competition. A couple of missteps here and there, had to rebound from some offs and some involvements and incidents, but man, you have pace. Every time you're on the racetrack, you seem to have what it takes to get to the front and stay there. Tonight was no different. First off, Sebring is very challenging. You had a great fight there with Thomas Outson towards the end of this race. What are your thoughts after coming home with a strong finish here tonight and wrapping up this Open championship?
Thanks, Eric. First and foremost, it was definitely a lot more exciting than I had initially anticipated. There was a lot of elbows out there at the beginning of the race and got caught up in something and then took some damage, and unfortunately that caused me to have an off later on and I had to pit. And then at that point forward, it was just stop making mistakes and try and save some fuel to get back on sequence.
I'm glad you brought that up because the turn 1, lap 1 incident, which puts you on 2 wheels for a short time, we thought that may have had something to do with the very early pit stop, which essentially then puts you on a multiple stop strategy, but it didn't seem to slow you down. You had one semi-spin late in the going. You still got back. We're watching the pass here for what ended up being the win on the Ullman Straight right now on our screen, and you just keep digging. What is it about your driving ability to kind of have a never give up attitude, even when things may not seem to be going your way? I mean, it's a theme that we've seen out of you for the last 4 races or so, and I would say that's a championship quality.
I guess that the best thing you can do when you get into a situation like that is just keep moving forwards. Especially today, it was a really, really long race. 2 hours is a lot of time. One spin isn't going to dictate your race one way or the other. So at that point forward, just keep pushing.
And, I mean, you've had success at so many tracks. Kicked things off with an open win at Daytona. Then went down to VIR, got the job done there. We get to the Canadian spots, Circuit Joe Villeneuve, Canadian Tire. Overall wins for you there. And then at Mid-Ohio, you bounce back from a mistake in lap traffic. And then here tonight, you capture the win after the 2 items that we talked about. Could this season have gone any better for you en route to this championship?
I definitely think it could have. Obviously, winning the championship is a huge plus. But I think I can definitely look back on the season and see there were some mistakes that I definitely have to get rid of going forward.
Well, Chris, you've had an amazing season. You've been very fun to watch. Lot to be proud of. All the wins, the championship. Who do you have to thank for making this possible for you?
As always, I wanted to thank everybody over at Pit Stop TV with the broadcast for putting on an awesome broadcast every week. Our series sponsors Mobile One and RECARO, and I also wanted to thank Operation Motorsports for putting everything together for us.
And Christopher, we want to thank you, man. Having drivers like you in the field certainly make things very exciting. Congratulations on a spectacular season and wrapping up that championship. Great job, Christopher.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to next season already.
Thanks a lot, Christopher Bailey. Again, not only our Open winner, but also our Open champion on the night after he got to celebrate dual honors, just like we did with Hunter Reeve a little bit earlier. And I'm going to toss it back over now to JP Costa, who's going to have an opportunity to talk to Theo Brolsema after his night ended relatively strongly, and he'll be able to celebrate a top running position in points as the season draws to a close.
So Theo, I guess your session tonight came in, I guess, quite positively with qualifying, you being the pole position for the beneficiary class. But after that turn 1 incident, you managed to walk away unscathed. But unfortunately, you found yourself on an incident later on in lap 1, didn't you?
Yeah, it was just the way things go, I guess. It's one of the reasons we all like racing is anything can happen. So.
Well, but after that, you just went on, I guess, on a charge, and you were just getting closer and closer to your championship rival, Hunter Reeve. But unfortunately, a series of small mistakes and ultimately a crash at the end of at the exit of Le Mans costed you, I guess, a challenge at the title, didn't it?
Yeah, I think the good spin was at the end of Le Mans. I clipped the front bumpers up pretty bad and had to pit for repairs. And then I think the very next lap I got sideways in Sunset and lost the rear wing and did a lap without the wing on, so that slows me down. But it was at that point, it was just kind of, I don't think I'm able to catch Hunter, so I'll run clean, I'll have some fun. And I had some great fights with a whole bunch of other people on track, and it's still a really good race. Good end to the season.
Yeah, we saw some of those battles. It was definitely amazing seeing you fighting back through the grid. You were I guess you found yourself all the way down in 17th and you finished in P12, so that was definitely a nice comeback to see. And, well, you can take away a lot of great things about the season. Even though it didn't go your way at the end, you can still take a lot of positives out of it.
Oh, for sure. I definitely learned a lot, and I got a lot better as a driver, and huge props to Hunter. He earned it. He was consistent every single race. So.
Well, so were you, but unfortunately, it was just all so close at the end. But who do you have to thank, not only for the race, but also for the season? Any sponsor, family members, all that sort of stuff?
I'd like to thank my girlfriend Leah. She's always watching the streams, supporting me. All my other friends on Discord who pop in on the streams occasionally. And Jason Leach from Operation Motorsport for putting the whole thing on. And yeah, just everyone out there for some good, clean racing and a lot of fun.
Well, I'm sure they're all proud of you for this excellent season, this excellent comeback race that you provided us today. And I hope, for the next championship, it can be one better for you. We'd love to talk to you again. And, well, go celebrate just like Hunter, unfortunately for you. don't go just too deep.
All right, thank you. See you next season.
Well, hopefully. That was Theo Brosemar, second place finisher on the Beneficiary Championship. And, well, back to you now, Eric.
Thanks a lot, JP. Now, Brandon Egerchuk has tied up the Pro Championship, but a prior commitment is going to leave an open spot here to talk to somebody about his accolades on the season. So who better than somebody who drives for the same team? And Charlie Bass to come into the booth here. Charlie's had success this year as well. Remember, he got the pro win back at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Charlie, welcome to the broadcast booth. Obviously, Brandon got the championship by virtue of his 2 wins and a very consistent season all throughout. But you guys had a lot of pace every time that we showed up, and you guys rolled off the virtual trailer, we'll say. What is it about this team effort, and is there a level of pride even on your behalf to know that one of your own was able to wrap up a championship honor here tonight?
There's a huge amount of pride. I can't tell you how proud I am of Brandon. To come into this, we just put this team together in the early part of this year, and we went from being nothing to the Air Force Gaming leadership recognizing us as the official arm of Air Force Gaming eMotorsports. And so for Brandon to show up on track, win the first race, win the second race, and then to go on and hold on and win the championship in our very first season as a professional organization makes me very, very happy and very, very excited. So.
Yeah, and the two of you really have a lot to be proud of. And, I would say even more so impressive for Brandon, the fact that the championship lead was big enough that despite the turn 1, lap 1 crash, the buffer was big enough for him to still be able to rest on his positive results in the first 7 races to clinch that championship. However, Charlie, the P that rests next to your names does not only stand for pro, it also stands for pressure. There's a level of expectation for you guys to typically be up towards the front of the pack because of your reputation and success on the sim, and you guys found a way to back that up. I mean, this is a stellar field. The pros was the most diverse winning class that we had across the 3, and as I mentioned, your name was one of them to get up there towards the front. How much fun is it to compete in this series knowing the caliber of drivers you're racing against on a weekly basis?
The thing that was very interesting to watch this year, and it was a lot of fun, was to watch the field mature and to watch the field get better. In the beginning, the first couple races, it was probably easier than what it was. It was definitely easier than what it was towards the end of the season. People got faster in the open class. People even got faster in the beneficiary class, and they definitely made it hard on the track for us at times. They were as fast as we were. So, that was a lot of fun to see the field mature and to see everybody get better over the season. So.
And that certainly highlights one of the special elements of this series. And, obviously, there's a lot of people who go behind the efforts of not only you, but of course Brandon as well. Who do you guys have to thank for these superb runs you put on all year long, including the championship, which Brandon Egerchuk's going to have a chance to celebrate here in just a little bit?
Hey, so first I want to thank Operation Motorsports and Mr. Jason Leach for putting on an awesome event this year. This season was great. I can't wait for the next one. Of course, want to thank RECARO, Mobile One, all of our sponsors for making it happen and making such a professional looking thing. And you guys at Pit Stop TV for putting on such a great broadcast. I think you guys did a fantastic job and really appreciate it. Most of all, I want to thank Air Force Gaming for giving Brandon and myself and Chris a chance to represent the Air Force, the Air and Space Force, I should say. And, I think that only bigger things are going to come from this Air Force Gaming eMotorsports team in the next fall season coming up. So.
A lot of people who go into a championship effort on the sim side for an incredible series and an incredible cause. And Charlie, thank you for being able to step in and fill the role for Brandon Egerchuk tonight in celebration of his championship. Great one by you. Thank you for making it exciting there towards the end. Got to celebrate a top 10 finish, and we look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yep. See you guys in the fall.
All right, Charlie Bass again after a solid finish representing his team at Air Force Gaming on behalf of Brendan Egerchek, our pro champion. And now we're going to bring in a gentleman which we heard Charlie Bass reference and mention for a couple of reasons, one of which he had a great run here tonight. Did that of Jason Leach, came home with a top 10 finish this evening on track. But of course, he is one of the main representatives and liaisons behind the scenes, also serves as an admin for this series and a huge partner and involvement in Operation Motorsport. And Jason, I know that the Season 1 edition of this series was a pivot point due to all that was going on in the world with the COVID-19 pandemic, but I gotta say that the level of success that that series had has flowed directly into and through Season 2, judging by all the winners, the competitive nature we've seen on track, just how incredibly supportive all the partners have been throughout this process. How do you judge this season, this Winter League season as a whole for Operation eMotorsport in 2021?
Well, thanks first off for having me up here in the virtual booth tonight and all those kind words. So I would say, anytime you undertake a project like this, you're always trying to up yourself and do better than you did the last time, and we definitely succeeded that. Our car count was up. Our average, I think, last season was somewhere around 18. This season, I think we were somewhere around 25 or 26. That's a huge growth in a very short amount of time, and that's really just to the word of mouth and the grassroots campaign of trying to get people aware of who Operation Motorsport is and what we do, and you guys up here in the broadcast booth, taking the time out of your day to broadcast this and put this out there on YouTube across multiple channels and just help us get the message out about who we are and what we're doing and attract the right people who can benefit from something like this.
Yeah, we got to hear and tell a lot of the stories of a number of the beneficiaries in the field in our pre-race show earlier tonight, and that's truly who this is all about. And the one point that we try to drive home as frequently as we can is the fact that this eMotorsport series and league is just a small facet of what Operation Motorsport is all about. If you can, could we touch on some of the other elements that are in play? And the best news is of all is that we're starting to see some of those additional engagements come back in 2021 as we get back to, I'll call it, relative normal this year. What are some of the other avenues and programs that Operation Motorsport has to offer?
Well, our bread and butter, comes from embedding beneficiaries in with professional sports car race teams. So, we're at Virtual Sebring this, here tonight. This weekend we're going to have two OPMO beneficiaries. Well, really one alumni, one beneficiary, in working with Action Express at the IMSA 12 Hours of Sebring weekend. We just had a great success, season opener with SRO, CrowdStrike Racing, DXDT, AWS, and Boehm Racing out at Sonoma Raceway a couple weeks ago. And if you remember, we were at Sonoma virtually just a couple weeks ago. What we try to do is, in the virtual league here, is line up our events with our real-world events in order to help promote what we're going to be doing and where we're going to be activating at. In addition to the getting back into the racetrack, we're also going to be kicking off our Operation Motorsport Academy up in Canada here in the next month or so. And what that is that's going to be bringing people in virtually to help introduce them to motorsports, kind of a motorsports 101, kind of help lay the foundation so when they step off into that race team for the first time, it's not quite as full. The other thing we're doing, working with Tune Autosport up at Calamogie and Trevor and Travis Hill, they both race in this league. We're looking to start a driver development program, and that whole premise is to take a couple beneficiaries and bring an Operation Motorsport team together for the Race of Remembrance in the Anglesey Circuit in November of 2021.
It's incredible how many things that you guys are able to have your hands in and what the whole premise and purpose of each one of them are. And you also have some amazing partners. I mean, along the way, you mentioned some of the partnerships that you've been able to tie up with, whether it be track representatives or some of the series partners. Some of them we've gotten a chance to talk to here on the program, whether it be from, Mobile One has been a long-time partner, and also RECARO. And the most fascinating thing that I think I took out of the series was RECARO's involvement in not only what they do for, the average motorsports entity, but also what they're doing for a lot of people who may need a little bit of adjustments or adaptations in order for them to do what's possible. How strong is that relationship with RECARO, considering the fact that they were the presenting partner of this series and this season, and we see their name adorned all over these cars, and how pivotal is that relationship for the success of this program?
Well, we absolutely wouldn't be able to run this league without the value partnerships that we have. And RECARO is definitely right there at the top of us for us here, the virtual side. They sponsor the beneficiaries. They cover the entry fees. They cover the VRS subscription. They cover the iRacing costs and everything associated with it. So our beneficiaries, when they join this league, it's zero cost to them. They just have to make time available to participate with us. Partners like ExxonMobil have donated prize packs in the past. Same for CrowdStrike. Same for some other partners that are out there. But we're a volunteer organization. We're a nonprofit. Everybody involved with Operation Motorsport, we all have day jobs. We all have other things that we do in order to put food on the table and a roof over our heads. So, again, without these partnerships and the private donations come in, none of this would be possible.
Absolutely. And before we turn our attention to what may be next or down the road, or perhaps even in the beginning building blocks or infantry stages of building up the next eMotorsport series, where can some people go to learn more about either how to get involved, how to volunteer, or how to donate to an organization such as Operation Motorsport?
Well, that's really easy. We're on all the main social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, even on the professional side, you can find us there. But the easiest way to kind of keep up with what we're doing is operationmotorsport.org. We've got a dedicated eMotorsports page there, but you also find the donation pages and also the announcements of anything we have coming up. Our calendar is there, so if there's anybody out there listening that wants to talk about us or potentially become involved on the beneficiary side, you can find all the information there at the website. Also, though, again, we're a volunteer organization. We have openings for people that want to get involved on the communication side and marketing and social media and anything to help build the brand and become a part of it and give back to our veteran community and our service members. We've got a spot for them.
And again, one of the best websites and resources, operationmotorsport.org. Jason Leach, thank you so much for all you do. By the way, great run tonight on track. That was a very impressive top 10 performance. I don't want to let you go. How was your run tonight? Let's talk about the racing real quick.
So I really got lucky on that first turn incident there. I was able to avoid it and get through there without touching anything. That's probably really the biggest reason why I finished where I at. The other reason was, when I did pit, when I came back out, I didn't have anybody around me, so I really didn't race anybody tonight. Which, if you guys have watched me in the past, if I'm racing somebody, that usually means I'm probably over driving the car and having an incident to fall back further in the field. So I just saved everything up, for the 2 hours here at Sebring tonight.
Well, we were happy to see that clean run of the finish. Great top 10 finish to round out the season. On a more serious note, Jason, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for letting us be a part of it, and we look forward to seeing all that is still to come for Operation Motorsport for the rest of 2021.
I appreciate it, and thanks to you and Andrew and Emerson and everybody and Eric and everybody at Pit Stop TV just for the continued support and helping us get our program out there, but also be willing to adjust with us and help make the broadcast more professional. I love the replays. I love everything you guys did on the pre-race today and Chris Walsh's side-by-side comparison to the BMW and Porsche. I love the fact that we keep evolving and keep getting better. That as an organization of Opmo, that you guys are doing the same thing on your side.
Definitely, and we just certainly appreciate the opportunity. Jason, hopefully we'll be in touch, my friend, and best of luck throughout the rest of the year for all that you guys got going on.
Thanks. We'll talk soon.
And again, that is Jason Leach. Not only is he just a significant part of all that Operation Motorsport has to offer, also celebrating a top 10 finish here tonight. What a great run for him. And speaking of top 10s, before we turn our attention to our results, let's echo one more sentiment to thank the partners who make these events possible that we've gotten to enjoy for the last 8 weeks here on the platform. And as we mentioned, first off, the fact of RECARO. RECARO Automotive puts people first every time. They have an incredible and lengthy history that we got to touch on a couple weeks back. Their story is impressive. I believe they've been building seats back since the early 1900s. It's phenomenal. For more information, check them out on their website. And as we heard Jason mention, Mobile One has been a longtime standing partner with Operation Motorsport, and they are two of the most premier partners of this organization. And again, to learn more about how you could perhaps be more involved in this program, visit operationmotorsport.org for more information and details. So we talked about some of our front-running finishers. We actually got to see some of our front-running finishers and hear from some of our front-running finishers. Here's how they came to the checkered flag for the final race here tonight. With Chris Walsh the winner, as we mentioned, for the third time this season. Dustin Burkhalter did everything virtually that he had to do to have a shot to be able to overtake Brandon Egerchek for the pro point lead. Came up a little bit short there towards the end. Had a strong second-place finish to round out his season. And Christopher Bailey with the third-place finish on the overall, capturing the open honors once again in 2021. Thomas Outzen, fourth on the overall standings. Trevor Hill bounced back from that Turn 1, Lap 1 incident. And David Levine, who was the action man tonight, after he was in almost every battle that we put on screen, comes home in sixth. Charlie Bass, we heard from him earlier, teammate of Brandon Egerchek, came home a strong seventh after fighting for top-running positions throughout most of the event. And Hunter Reeve, for the seventh time in 8 races, the beneficiary winner, 8th on the overall standings, and he wraps up the beneficiary championship in the process. We just heard from Jason Leach, who got a top 10 finish in 9th. And how about Brock Hogan, second highest running beneficiary at the checkers, rounds out the top 10, first car, 1 lap down. JP, I'll turn it over to you with the rest of the field here, 11th through 20th.
The number 11 of Callum Belden finishes off in 11th place, a third place finish for him in the beneficiary class. Theo Brosma, who we just heard a bit before, finished off in second in his class in the championship, finishes off in P12. Rodney Campbell on the open class is going to be finished up in P13. Justin Jarrett on the number 85, we saw quite a bit of him during our broadcast, is going to finish off in 14th place. John Winker, the number 7, another beneficiary, is going to be finished off in 15th place, the last driver to be only a lap down on this race. Tyler Langenberg, after an amazing opening few laps, unfortunately finds himself finishing off in P16. Definitely something to be taken out for after those amazing first few laps. Jay Gleason, an open driver, finishes off in P17th, right ahead of Tim Bernard on 18th spot. Sean Knight on 19th, and Brian Winker on the number 336 is going to round off our top 20.
And the rest of the field saw a couple of drivers who were involved in some incidents tonight. Glenn Gray, who finished 21st, made it all the way to the finish, though. Rick Haslett was 22nd, and Brandon Egerchek, who ended up wrapping up the Pro Championship, again involved in that Turn 1, Lap 1 incident, but still had enough points to sew up the title, and a lot of that came by virtue of his 2 wins to kick off this season. It was an incredible night here at the Sebring International Raceway, and as you can see, there is so much to be celebrated as we close out this year. But we also want to take this opportunity to thank some of our partners on our end who allow us to come on out here on multiple occasions to take part in these events, specifically with that of our friends at Operation eMotorsport. We'll start it off with our friends at Tucson Sound Art. Again, your picture, your music, give them any image that you want. This would be a great gift for some of our championship-winning drivers here tonight. You can provide an image of your car, a friend, family member, loved one. They will take that, put it in a beautiful, high-quality frame canvas with a built-in Bluetooth speaker, and then with Sound Art, you get the best of both worlds. Visit the website down below, TucsonSoundArt.com. Just be sure you use the promo code PitStopTV, all mushed together as one word, PitStopTV, at checkout to receive 10% off your purchase. And again, that's TucsonSoundArt.com to learn more about their products and services. One of our newest partners here at Pit Stop TV is our friends at Race Pace. And there's a Discord link down below because, as we know in the sim racing community, it's one of the best ways to be able to communicate with those of which you are working with. And if you ever wished you could have a race engineer on speed dial, this is your chance. Thanks to Race Pace, which is a driver development service and setup shop all rolled into one. Work with our buddy Tyler, who is in fact a real-world race engineer, and he will help step up your game before your next race, so that way you could pick up the pace with Race Pace. We also want to thank our longtime partner at Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, because when it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy. Because at Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, the owner, Ashley Bullier, a certified micropigmentation specialist, provides professional, safe, and most importantly, personalized services. If you want to see some examples, testimonials, check them out on Facebook or visit their website, as you see down below, permanentmakeupinmaine.com, to learn more about their available products and services. Give them a call and book your consultation today. And lastly, we want to thank the parent company of Pit Stop TV, Whiplash Media, as they specialize in various sim racing resources, including paint schemes, stream overlays, iRacing camera packs, which I'm going to give a round of applause to Whiplash Media and our very own Andrew Cardinale IV, because tonight's were beautiful. They also deal with so much more in the sim racing world and on the real world side of racing as well. They're involved in any types of service that range from photography, social media management, public relations, and more. Visit the website that you see there, whiplash-media.com, to learn more about all that Whiplash has to offer. Well, I'll tell you what, JP, these 8 weeks went by relatively quickly. I'm sad to see the season come to a close, but I'm excited for all the attention and awareness that we were able to bring, especially tonight, to a number of the beneficiaries in the field. The series does a great job putting together a media packet, highlighting a number of those stories. We got to spend some one-on-one time with some drivers who may not have been able to win their way into the broadcast booth to tell some stories about what this series is all about. It tugs at your heartstrings for sure. It certainly opens up your eyes into all that is being done for these select individuals and groups of people, and there is so much more in store and on tap, courtesy of this organization. And like I said to Jason Leach earlier, I'm just happy to be a part of it, and I'm sure, JP, you feel the same.
Yeah, exactly. It has been special for me ever since season 1, race 1 at VIR. It has been an incredible journey. I'm so happy to be a part of it. As you said, it's just amazing to see all the stories and how, just Jason and all the guys behind Operation Motorsport just trying to make their lives better, trying to unite everybody, and they succeed in doing that. And I'm so excited for the future for these guys. It's just something great, and I'm definitely going to be following it on the future.
Now, while we may be done with the Operation eMotorsports event for the time being, we still have more racing coming up on the platform. Tomorrow night, it is going to be the Bluegrass iRacing Series finale at the Phoenix Raceway here on the platform. If you want to watch more stock car action, Friday night will be the LTAC Cup Series at Dover. And then Monday night, we are going to be in good shape for the BRP iRacing Series for their 11th race of 13 on the season at the Cedar Lake Speedway. If you want to learn where you can catch out the action, visit us on Facebook at facebook.com/pitstoptv/. You can also check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/pitstoptv_, twitch.tv/pit_stop_tv/. And lastly, my go-to source, especially if I'm laying in bed, not on the call for a race, and I want to check out what the guys are up to, on youtube.com/pitstoptv1/ to see all the racing action coming up again on Pit Stop TV. Well, it's been an amazing night. We had an amazing crew. As we mentioned earlier, we had our buddy Andrew Cardinale IV, who was on the pre-race show with us earlier. He was kind of the man behind the scenes with our production quality, which in my opinion went flawlessly. I'm not being biased. We also had Trey Shuttlesworth handling things on social media. A lot of wonderful pictures that are out and about over there to keep everybody up to speed as to what was happening on tonight's event. And of course, JP Costa joined me on the call, as he did for the majority of this season. And it's been a blast. And just like that, another season of Operation eMotorsport is in the book. We hope to see you back here once again soon. But for now, on behalf of everybody at Pit Stop TV, I'm Eric Brennan. I want to wish you all farewell, and we'll see you next time here on Pit Stop TV. Good night, everybody.